Is this the Krusty Krab? No, this is Patrick. Is this the Krusty Krab? No, this is Patrick. Is this the Krusty Krab? No, this is the Sunday Movie Marathon. Welcome. So, we're here with the normal crew, except, not really. It's me and Chris. Connor is not here today. Unfortunately, he had to travel to South America to save the Chilean miners, and, well, we didn't have the heart to tell him that those guys are fine now. But we also have a very special guest, our friend Reed.
Hello there. My name's also Connor. I'm far more attractive than the normal Connor that's on here. But that is irrelevant to this. After that introduction, I believe I've grown another chromosome and lost a few brain cells. All right, where do we start?
It's how we do it.
That's what we like to hear.
We're gonna discuss some movies.
The
first movie.
Films.
Take it away, Chris.
Yeah. I should also just point out that Connor is actually sending in his reviews of each film. He's got like a minute on each film that we're going to put in later. So he's still here, kind of, just not actually here in the call.
Oh,
He's here in spirit. I would like to ask our special guest, what's your favourite movie?
Oh, well, out of all of these?
Out of every movie ever.
Oh, every movie ever. Well, I was actually going to bring this up. Take any film opinion I have with a pinch of salt, since I personally consider Terminator 2 to be a near perfect piece of cinema and it's my all-time favourite film. Oh,
very
and
nice.
Blue Velvet by David Lynch sucks. I'm sorry, guys. That's a chat for another day.
That's all right. It does suck.
Why are you
and I'm tired of
apologising? I'm
pretending
the
it
only
doesn't.
one here who likes it.
I don't know. Kai might listen to this.
We got
Alright.
some movies.
I actually got it on Blu-ray today.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm going to flip the table here. What's both of your favourite films? Because I haven't actually asked this before.
My favourite movie is Blade Runner 2049. I love that movie.
Oh,
Saw it with my dad before seeing the first Blade Runner. I was like, what the hell is happening? I have no idea, but I love it. And then I watched the original. I love it even more now.
Oh, rest in peace, your dad. He was a good bloke, you know, before the accident. Is he dead?
Not yet.
Ah, Chris, yours?
My favourite film's The Exorcist.
Oh, I have
Saw
actually.
it when I was
Told me that
14 for the first time, and
Yeah, I remember you told me
been my
back in
favourite ever
college
since.
how much you liked it. Is it anything in particular, or is it the mythos behind it? You know, everyone
everything
fucking
about
dying during the production. Does that add to it?
that was pretty
almost?
interesting.
Yeah, it does add to like almost like the lore of it.
Yeah. In college, I told one of the teachers on the music tech course we did that it was my favourite film, and he just looked at me like I just told him that I kill people. He looked terrified.
Okay, not to like name drop or anything. We're going to use code names. I think you'll understand. Was it beard or nose ring?
Beard.
Really? That surprises me. That surprises me.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We all know.
We all know. If you know, you know. Remember, it's not who you know, it's who you blow.
Chris,
All right.
take it
That's
away.
true.
What was your recommendation?
Okay. So I picked the film Enter the Void, directed by Gaspar Noé. He is a director I'm a big fan of, and this is probably my favourite film by him. I picked it literally just because I knew it would completely divide all of us, because it's a very interesting movie in a lot of different ways. Basically, it's about a guy who is kind of a drug dealer, I guess. He gets shot, and then he goes on a journey as his spirit, as he floats around, seeing the lives of his sister and the people that surround him as they cope with his death and move on, as well as flashback throughout his life and see what led him to being killed. So, what did we all think of it?
Well, I thought I was going to die when I was watching this movie. I honestly thought that I was about to die. That being said, I kind of loved it, but I understand why anyone would hate it.
I found the film to be, to give you sort of like the TLDR, of my opinion, the whole thing. I'd say about as deep and as profound as a thimble of urine, to be quite frank. I did not enjoy the film.
Yeah.
Not much at
That's-
all. I didn't actually hear Max's take, not going to lie.
I said that
Really?
it made me feel like I was dying, but I still enjoyed it
Oh, fair
for
enough.
whatever reason that was.
There were some bits I did enjoy, which I will get onto during this little segment. It's not all doom and gloom from me for this film.
This is like the only Gaspar Noé
That's
film
good.
I've seen outside of Climax. I do prefer Climax. This, it's the kind of thing where I was very bored throughout it, but I was sort of like, just sort of taken in by it, like entranced by the whole thing.
I understand that completely. The bits I found entertaining, ironically, was some of the bits where almost nothing was happening.
Mhm.
Like almost like it was some sort of like atmospheric ASMR for me, where just bits of like walking down the street and stuff. It all turned to stink for me the moment characters opened their mouths. I don't know, like, do you know what? Is it all right if I start with some points for this, actually?
Go ahead.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
I stopped taking notes during quite soon into the film. Some of my notes are questions to myself, and there's only 5 of them. The first thing I said was obnoxious visuals, eye porn. I wrote that when the screen was like an off-white color, flashing for about 2 minutes, while you just heard droning in the background. Boomy voice. At some points, when the main character's talking, I wanted to grab an equalizer, just start mixing on the go because it was very obnoxious. I can actually do an impression for you if you would like.
Please.
I don't know if you've ever seen Enter the Void. 6 people, no, like 6 people listen to this. 1 person listens to this, but
Oh my god. Have you heard that guy where if she gets pregnant and has a baby, and then has to kill the baby?
that's what the main character sounds like for about 30% of the film. My next note was, if she ever gets pregnant, I'll kill the baby. I don't know why, I just found that line quite funny. Like, it was just not a normal piece of dialogue anyone says to someone. Like,
No.
fair enough. My next note was, everyone talks like an Oblivion NPC. If you've ever played the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.
Yeah.
I know what you're on about.
Yeah. And then I actually had a question for myself. This was my last note to try and like come to some understanding with the film was, do I just not interact with enough druggies? Was a note to myself.
Yeah.
I will actually say yes, I do not interact with enough, and that's actually a good thing if it increases my chance of getting locked in a bathroom and being shot. Well, I would say shot in the heart. You got sort of like shot even somewhere not super vital. He died very quick.
Yeah.
Quite
He
peculiar.
did.
Um,
It was like the gut.
yeah,
Right through the gut.
Yeah, like, and it was very small exit wound. Like, generally got shot with a very small gun. I think he would have been okay, but it is what it is, you know. Sort of took me out slightly, but that's the sort of thing like most people wouldn't notice or care about. So I can't fault it too much on that. A few other random points that weirdly like threw me off. This is like, it's such a weird point to be petty about, but all right. Have you ever seen the food in Japan? How fucking good does it look? To be honest,
Yeah.
looks immense.
Sure.
How come all the food in this looked like shit? Like straight up, whenever someone was preparing food, it was like literally. I remember one bit, his sister's preparing food, and I saw on the chopping board it's like half a cut of banana and like half a yellow bell pepper. I'm like, what is she making? What on earth is she making? There's another scene where Victor's mother, the MILF, right, is preparing a dinner. Well, she's preparing a dinner before she gets into an argument with their son and husband, right? And the hob's on, and the gas hob, the flames going, and the camera slowly zooms into it for this like effect. But as it's zooming in, I just see the chopping board. All there is a half cut of yellow bell pepper, and the hob's on. There's no pan anywhere. I'm like, why would you turn a gas hob on? You ain't even got a pan out. You ain't even got anything to put in the pan. Like, it's like I just saw straight away, and it just weirdly took me out of it. I know it's such like a petty
Yeah.
point.
It's
Yeah,
interesting though.
You guys got any negatives, and we can flip onto some positives, because I do have some positives, believe it or not, with this film.
Yeah, let's start off with some negatives.
Definitely agree with you about the dialogue. Basically, because Gaspar Noé at the time barely spoke any English at all. He literally got everyone to improvise. Everyone improvised all of their lines, and a lot of it is really cringy. And I do think Nathaniel Brown, who plays Oscar, the main character, he's just terrible in the film. He's so bad.
He's the worst offender in it, definitely. Also, sugar. Let me get my note up. Cast. Roy Cyril, is it? Or Cyril Roy? I might butcher his name. Yeah, Cyril Roy, the guy who plays Alex. Weirdly enough, the only character I liked. His dialogue was weirdly the most believable, in my opinion. I don't know how some of the lines were thrown around.
Like, there's that scene of them walking between Oscar's apartment and the bar, and I don't think it's like very interesting dialogue, but it definitely like reminds me of conversations I've heard people have on nights out when they're incredibly high or drunk.
Well, if it was an improv thing, I think a really good thing he did do was when he's in the apartment he's like quite fidgety, and one of the first things he says is, "I think I need a shower," which is what a smelly, sweaty druggie would most likely say. And then he's like, "Have you got any water, man?" He takes a sip of water, and before they go, he's like, "Actually, can I take the water with me?" You know, I don't know why. That's like a little bit I picked up on. I say, okay, that's like the only decent bit of dialogue I've heard so far. And to call that decent dialogue is sort of like a bit of a stretch, I will say.
Yeah. I really was sort of taken aback by this sort of black flashing that happens predominantly in like the first few scenes, where it's just like every so often it'll flash, and I had to like pause the movie and be like, Chris, what the hell is happening here? Like, what's up with this DVD that he's given me? And he's like, no, it's just like them blinking. And I'm like, nah, I can't deal with that. I cannot deal with it. It happens a bit towards the end as well, but I don't think it's necessary. It just really annoyed me.
Yeah, isn't he like an ethereal spirit at this point? He ain't got eyelids.
Yeah, you'd think, but
that's another thing. I had to like read up on it after watching the movie, and it said, and it shows life after death as he traverses the Tokyo plains, looking at all the people in his life. And I'm like, really? I just thought that like the camera was doing some weird shit. I didn't really like. Sometimes it occurred to me that it was like him, but it was mainly like when it was just like looking at like his sister, I guess. But then it's like the camera's always moving around, like really weird camera movements. But I do enjoy that, as it just like goes over buildings or like through walls. It's really crazy.
To add to that, there's a few times where it's like the camera is like slowly panning, looking over a street, and it's like, oh, it's going to go through this window, and we're going to have a look into what's going into this building, and it just goes past the window, just through the wall instead. I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. Weren't expecting that. Or like sometimes the camera would like when he enters someone else's perspective. Like I noticed, like it'd be so easy, and it would make so much sense if it just went to like the top of the head or the back of the head. Sometimes it would just be like the back top side of the head, like near the nape or something. Like it just picks a different spot each time, which I don't sound dumb. It's like a little thing I noticed. Like, oh, okay, some of these angles are a bit wacky, a bit goofy. Speaking of watching his sister and whatnot, he's just perished. He's just become an ethereal fucking ball of energy or whatever, a soul or a spirit or whatever. First thing he does is watch Mario dump a big old fucking load of yogurt inside his sister. And I'm like, hold on, that's disgusting. Right.
Yeah.
And weird gripe, right? Is it a nickname? But what Asian man is named Mario? I generally thought like I thought it was like Maru or something like that, or some sort of like peculiar name, and they're just pronouncing it weird. But then I was like, Mario. His name's Mario. It was just like, oh, okay, fair enough. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. That's just what he's called. His parents just love the Nintendo so much.
Yeah. His dialogue was laughably bad, but it was almost authentic because you just know English is potentially even his third language, which was quite fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was what kept confusing me while I was watching this. I was like, what country is this movie from? Because it's directed by this like Argentinian director. It's set in Tokyo. And they've got like English actors and like French actors, American actors. I don't know like what it's supposed to be, but I did find that quite endearing.
I don't know. I think something that would have sucked me into that whole sort of like, oh, this is Japan they're in, by the way. Oh, do you know, it literally didn't need to be set in Japan, in my opinion. It was set in Japan because of the cool lights. There wasn't like a lick of any like Japanese dialogue, a lick of anything like culturally Japanese or anything like that. Like it generally could have been set in France or America or something like that, and it would have still worked. I don't know. It just didn't make sense. I think the only thing that made sense to putting in Japan is like, oh, if the dialogue's going to be shit, at least it's their second language, I guess. Don't know if that was a purposeful plus or anything, but fuck knows.
I think the only other issue I have isn't really like a massive issue. It's like kind of almost nitpicky. It's like at the beginning, you've got the main character talking about how he's reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it's just like the most unsubtle thing in the film. Especially like it's not something you'd pick up the first time around, but when you rewatch it, it's like just so on the nose.
Oh, I literally saw like every other scene. The book is just chilling there.
Yeah, I got that as well. I had to note it down. Like, Tibetan Book of the Dead.
It was
keeps
like
cropping up.
Borderline, like Jack and Jill product placement. I almost expected a character to turn to the camera and go, "Now to read the Book of the Dead. You can get it from penguinclassics.com." Something like that.
That's like borderline what they do, though. It's like the guy comes round his apartment and he's like, "You read this book? Yeah, man, I gave you that book. You read it?" He's like, "No, I've read some of it. Can I keep it? Because I'm really enjoying it." Oh yeah, man, you can keep it. Go ahead.
Sorry, he doesn't quite say it like that. He says it one of those.
It's really cool. Can I borrow it so I can finish it sometime?
Right. Yeah, man, you can keep it. Have it, man. Read it, man. It's a good fucking book. Yeah, man. It's like, oh shit. But he was actually my favorite character. Alex.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, I like him.
Because it started off with like everyone calling him like a junkie and a piece of shit, but it turned out he was actually the only sane character in this film. Like,
pretty much,
in my opinion, literally the only sane character. Like everyone else is unhinged, morally corrupt, or does something absolutely horrific. In my opinion, so
yeah,
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, he's like the only character that does anything, which I kind of guess works because it sets up. It's like, oh, he should have been the one to fill his bloody sister up, But to put it in layman's terms,
he fancied her, didn't he?
Yeah. I really like your sister, man. She's fucking hot.
You look after her, yeah.
Yeah.
He like visits the apartment right after he's like taken a hit of whatever he's taken, and you just see like minutes and minutes go by, just these weird patterns and colours. I just stared at it. I had like downed a cup of coffee beforehand. It was like the morning. I was like, what the hell is happening? I have no idea what's happening. Maybe it went on a little too long, but
it felt slightly like a chore. Like just literally, it's like 2 minutes of just a flashing light. I'm like, okay, like I don't understand Ash. I kind of want to go back and measure all the flashing light segments where not like it's something's being visually augmented, but when it's literally just a flat color flashing for a few minutes. I want to add it all up and see how much it actually adds to the runtime.
Yeah, I was taken in by that though, like towards the end.
I will say
it sort of grated on me a bit in the beginning.
As much as it did get tiresome, them long flashing bits, by the end of it, I was understanding like, okay, if this just flashed white once, it would be like a fucking Star Wars Phantom Menace transition between scenes. Like movie maker kind of. It would lose that sort of effect they're actually going for. So it was a purposeful choice. It worked at some points and was annoying at others. But if you weren't to have it throughout the whole thing, you wouldn't have had the positive aspect of it, I felt. But I don't know.
Yeah, there's two versions of the film. There's the full-length version, which is the one that I think we all watched. And there's like a shorter cut which came out in like a lot of cinemas, and that's like 15 minutes shorter, and that literally just cuts down those psychedelic scenes. It keeps everything else in.
Jesus. Oh, it goes to show how much they're in it, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did feel the length a lot in this movie. It's like nearly 3 hours long.
Yeah,
I wish this movie would like just respect my time a little bit more, but at the same time, I did enjoy where it took me.
Yeah, I enjoyed some bits, but I will be honest, I will never watch this film again. And it will gather dust and fall into some little recess in my brain. And maybe I'll be laying on my deathbed, and just before I croak, I'll fucking see that, one of the final shots that you see in the film just before I hit kick the bucket. You know what bit I'm on about?
Oh, yeah.
That scene.
The penis.
It's funny because you're talking about Gaspar Noé, or however you pronounce it. Never pronounced it before. Noir, Noel, whatever it is. This other film, Climax, whatever you preferred. I feel like that's quite fitting. Are all of his films based around cum?
Chris?
No, Climax is like probably his least sexual film.
Well,
but he
I was just going by the title alone.
Yeah. His film that he did after Enter the Void is a film called Love, which is like a romance film that half of the film is literally just real life sex. Just the characters actually like having unsimulated sex. And it actually does use that, it reuses that penis shot of it coming at the camera.
Shot for shot. Or like they made it again.
He just takes it.
Oh, fair.
No, he didn't make it. They literally just took the clip and reused it.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
That shot had me just in tears laughing at it. You like, okay,
Yeah,
so he's
hilarious.
like, we go through the Love Hotel, which is just this like hotel where you go to have sex, I guess, but it's in like a model Tokyo that this guy's built. So there's loads of flashing lights and colourful scenery. We go and like, who is it? Linda, who's the sister. She's having sex with, was it the French guy at the end?
Alex.
Yeah,
him.
Yeah.
Alex.
And then, so they're having sex, and this is another thing I really like. I just admired, was like when you go through all of these rooms with all these people having sex or performing some sort of sexual act, there's like this sort of weird light that emanates from wherever they're connecting.
Yeah,
like, that's weird. But I kind of liked it, like sort of signified life in a way, or
well,
like the kind
you
of thing
say that, but
Gaspar Noé.
You ever like I don't know, like like that thin bit of skin between your thumb and your index finger. You ever put a torch against that and it's like, oh look, it's red. The light's glowing through my skin. You ever done that with part of your body before?
Yeah.
It was like someone stuck a bloody 200 lumens flashlight in Victor's mouth. The end of it, he's like, it looks like he's kneeling in an elevator, like sucking the police chief off, and his like mouth is glowing. Like, that was just, I don't know. Was there meant to be some sort of symbolism there? Like, oh, he didn't actually do that, but he might as well have done that.
Who knows? Honestly,
or maybe he did. You never know.
But then there was that shot where you go into Linda, into her, and then you see Alex's penis reach into her, and it's like this full-on shot that I guess they had to like just make in some sort of CG computer thing, and then so off with the terminology there. Sorry, and then it just comes right at you, and I'm like, I could not stop laughing. And then it just shows like the sperm. It has to take it that extra step further. It just like shows all these sperm going to the egg, and then like this is like right at the end of the movie, and then like a baby is born, and then you've got like you're seeing from the baby's perspective. It's like,
well, are we seeing from the baby's perspective, or is Oscar reincarnated as that baby?
I think that is like just meant to be Oscar's memory of his birth, and then from then on, his life basically loops and starts again. I think that's kind of what he was going for.
Oh, okay. So, because they
I don't know. I do like the idea of reincarnation. Yeah, they do.
So, like-
They're like, when you die, you either go to heaven, or some people just can't hack dying, so they have to be reincarnated. So
Well,
maybe that's what it was about.
He literally does have a conversation with his sister where he says, where he asks her if she believes in reincarnation, and she said, "I don't fucking know."
Yeah, there's like a quote that she says, she's like, "Promise we'll never leave each other," and he says, "Never ever." And she asks him, "And if you
Hold
die?"
on.
He says, "I'll come back."
We've only watched this stinker once compared to you, Chris. I think we understand it more than you. You know? But no, obviously subjectively speaking. But no, I thought it was pretty clear that it was like him reincarnating, because they have to say about 8 times in the film, like, "Promise me you'll never die." But I thought,
Yeah.
oh, they're still together. Speaking of them together, bit weird at times, a bit like, brotherly sisterly
A little
love,
bit incestuous.
and it's like, oh, she's licking and biting his ear and kissing his neck. There was a lot of weird Freudian stuff, I will admit, like a bit where it's like a POV sex scene of him like shagging Victor's mum, and then like it will just turn into his mum for a sec. I was just like, oh, how Freudian of you, Obviously, is that like talking about, childhood trauma because his parents are missing? I was almost expecting a scene where he bums his dad to just like put the cherry on top of the cake, but it is what it is.
Their relationship is. They definitely hints at something being incestuous there, and I kind of appreciate that he doesn't like fully delve into it and like flat out say, yeah, they've got an incestuous relationship, because I think it kind of makes it a little bit more creepy in a way. It's just a little bit more unnerving watching them kiss each other and stuff, not knowing whether there is something actually happening.
When they're living together, she's just got her tits out all the time, even though she's wearing like a bra, but her tits will be hanging out of the bra. And I've just got a feeling like they're doing the scene, and Gaspar Noé was like sat back in his chair doing that, when like directors like frame it with their hands, like no, the breast, get the breast out. I don't know if that's what he sounds like. I'm just imagining, but something along them lines.
Yeah,
get the
that
breast
is
out.
actually quite accurate.
No. Again, but breast out.
That's exactly what he's like. I'm sure he is.
Yeah. Never even heard of the man.
He's a pervert.
He is definitely a pervert, I will say. But do you think the hints at the ancestral relationship is talking about how obviously they grew up separately after that traumatic incident of their parents perishing? Like, obviously, the sexual part of like puberty and whatnot, is that like reinforced the fact that they went through that separately?
Yeah, possibly.
I thought that was something they were trying to go for there, hence why they're then like weird sexualness. Or the director isn't going for some subtle things like that, and he's just a massive fucking perv. You decide.
Can't it be a little bit of both?
Audience at home, vote down below what you think.
Yeah, Gaspar's either very subtle and on the nose, or he's just flat out like showing you everything in graphic detail.
On the nose, or he'll come on your nose.
That's what it felt like, honestly.
Speaking of positives of the film, I will talk about like one bit I did like was Alex warning about this like main supplier of drugs. It was like horrific, like Nancy bastard, absolute perv, right? He's like, oh man, he's so fucked up. He can't even come from sex anymore. He has to get little boys to suck him off, and then he sticks his finger in his own ass and wipes shit on the back of their head. So they're walking around with shit on the back of their head. Don't take a drink. Don't drink anything, otherwise you'll wake up with shit on your mouth. Maybe your own shit. Oh man, doing his accent actually just killed me. Then, not gonna lie.
Oh my god, yeah, that was great. I love that.
That was actually one of my favourite bits, I will admit, because it's one of the only bits I sort of like felt real. Because Oscar didn't actually have much to say at that point. Because what the fuck would you say in response to that?
Also, he was off his tits.
Do you know what, speaking of him being off his tits, right? There's a bit where Linda is having a dream that her brother's being like reincarnated, well, like just physically come back to life, right? And during that sequence, I thought, oh, this is obviously a dream. And I didn't look at the runtime, like what was left. And I just literally started shaking my head. I was like, no, don't do this to me. And I thought it was literally going to pan up to like the screen, like fading into colors. He was going to lean forward. And you just see from his perspective, he's got the pipe in his hand. He's like, whoa, what a trip. I genuinely thought that was just about to fucking happen. And the worst thing is, I don't even know if I'd be that mad. Like, I don't know.
Trim almost an hour off the film at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was coming to a close at that point. And then I like just moved my mouse and like the run time bar appeared at the bottom. I was like, we are not near the end. Not at all.
That was like at a point where I was just like, you could do literally anything right now, and I'm here for it. I don't even care anymore.
Do you know the worst thing about the perception of time with this film is it technically a film, or is it technically just opening credits? Because obviously from his apartment you see that sign that says enter, and then the rest of the writing's in Japanese, so you're not really meant to understand it per se, just big bold words that say enter, and then at the end it just goes the void. And I literally I just sighed. I just went, like that. I just watched one really fucking long title sequence that actually pissed me off. I was just like, really?
Which is weird because the actual title sequences just go by like in a flash. That's like a thing that Gaspar Noé did with Climax as well. It's like in the middle of the movie, the credits come on screen. It's just flashing like all the time.
Wait, halfway through?
Yeah.
What a dickhead.
Yeah, because it's like halfway through the movie, and it's not like that long of a movie. It's like an hour and 40 or something. And then it's like, now this is where the movie starts.
I really loved the opening credits sequence, where it's just like it's very strange. Like there's loads of different fonts flashing on the screen. I do think it's a bit too long, but I think it's quite creative what he does with it.
It's definitely strange and out there. Don't see it a lot in movies. I see it a lot in Gaspar Noé movies, but nowhere eye I think he sort of patented that style of delivery.
Also, it's one of the points that led me to my first night being obnoxious visuals, eye porn. But sound design, great at sometimes, dreadful at others, I will admit. Sometimes I thought, oh wow, this sort of like sound is actually like really dragging me in, being very atmospheric, it's conveying a certain emotion. But another time I was just like, oh, is this tinnitus?
Yeah. Sometimes I thought like the music could be like really like creepy and ominous. It just fit really well with like how the camera flowed. Other times I did think it could be quite just obnoxious, but not really in a way that took me out of it.
What's your take on the audio, Chris? The good, the bad, and the ugly?
No, I agree. My favourite bits are like just after he like dies and he's like whispering him to himself, like just talking to himself, and then obviously it goes over to the bit where Linda bangs Mario, and that whole scene's like really disorienting, like to begin with, and the music and sounds like super muffled, and like all you can basically hear is just music coming from outside the room, and I think that's really atmospheric. But yeah, I do agree. Some of it isn't great, especially Oscar's voice in the beginning.
Yeah.
I did kind of like how he was talking to himself as he was dying, though. He was like, what the fuck's happening? Did you get shot? Are you dying right now? Am I dying right now? I'm not dying. Oh, God, I think I'm dying.
So, like, I don't know if it was because he's high, but there's a real lack of urgency in some of his dialogue when he's locked in a bathroom about to get busted, and for some reason he stupidly says he's got a gun. I don't know why he says that. That was ridiculous. He gets shot, and he says,
"Oh my God, I didn't shot."
I don't know why, but that just actually annoyed me. I just rolled my eyes. Like, I doubt would any of you think that if you just got shot, you think, through the gut? Like,
oh yeah, have I been shot?
Yeah.
I was just like, what?
Probably not, no.
That definitely annoyed me too, to be honest, when he told the police he had a gun. I was like, what do you think they're going to do, man?
In all fairness, I think my thought process after getting shot would be more like this. But I don't know about you
Of
guys.
course.
Yeah, probably the same.
Fair.
Yeah, definitely. I love the scene where like he's in the car crash. They do go back to it quite a bit, and I don't think it really struck me as much as it struck me the last time they showed it at the end, where like Linda, they're just like the kids have survived, but the parents are dead, and they're in this bloody crushed up mess with their dead parents in the front seat, and Linda's just screaming. I was like, oh man, I can't take this. This is
Do you know what?
horrible.
It makes me cringe.
Agree. One thing which was weird is how come the child actors were better than the adult actors?
Yep.
Not even joking. The
I'll
child
agree.
acting was really good. I know it sounds
Yeah.
dumb. Like, try and explain the concept of like death to a child. Be like, look, you're meant to be distraught, and they'll be like, what's distraught mean? Eh? You know, try and explain that to a kid, and literally like that little girl who's acting. Let me have a look at the name. I'll not find it actually. Why am I even bothering? Unless it says like young Linda or something. Oh, little Linda, played by Emily Aylen Lind. I butchered that name most likely. Yeah, did a really good job. It's like, oh, that's a fucking child in distress. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Maybe
no.
Gaspar actually murdered those kids' parents.
Maybe. I don't know why, but during that bit, I was thinking of that. You ever seen that clip of David Lynch? I don't know what film it's for, but he's trying to get child actors to like cry and be upset. And there's just a bit where he's like, no, you're too happy. You're too happy. No. Writhe around in pain. Roll around.
Yeah.
Yes, you're in lots of pain. Beautiful. More sadness, anguish. Like that. It just reminded me of that like clip for some reason. I was just
Yeah.
like, blimey.
Yeah. You just sort of like think maybe Gaspar told them, hey, we just got a call and your parents have died. And then it's just like they start crying. Yeah, great.
It wouldn't even surprise me. It's like the sort of thing I imagine he would do.
Yeah.
Or like just go to the next step and actually kill their parents.
We need the authenticity.
All right. Would it be too short notice to call a point for people's scores and ratings, you think? Or is there more
I'm
anyone
good
else
for
want
that.
to add? Anyone else want to add any?
I got a few bits I wanted to add.
Please do.
I know, Reed, you hate the visual eye porn of the film. But
some of it works,
really
some of it was obnoxious.
like it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it, in my opinion, I think it works really well. I like how neon and glamorous a lot of it looks. I think it
Okay.
contrasts just how cold and empty the film actually kind of feels. Because this, like, it's not a happy film at all. It's a very dark, empty film at times. And I think what Gaspar was going for was to kind of show how empty human existence can be, and how we try and fill it with sex, drugs, and like glamorous things, and how ultimately that's kind of what destroys us. And that's like the main thing I get from the film, and I think the visuals display that quite well.
It doesn't stop him from doing those things, though. If he can
No.
see what he's doing wrong with his life, but he still does it. Still makes movies about it. He was
true.
probably high off his nut while he was filming this. Probably coked out of his mind.
I bet he was stone cold sober during the production of this.
He makes every single one of his films incredibly high, apparently.
I'm not
You
surprised.
can tell.
Yeah.
You can never tell with this one, at least. No,
Yeah.
when I said the obnoxious visuals eye porn comment, it was more like, hey, look at this, it's bright. Like when things are being accentuated, I liked it because it was like, oh, look how like literally everything's fucking grey, dirty, and scummy, but it's like backlit with purple. You know, and then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
that works. But when it's just like, I don't know, it reminded me of episodes of The Simpsons where they all have epileptic fits. Talking about that in that Pokemon episode that killed a bunch of kids. Sometimes it felt like that. Like it made me question myself. Like, am I epileptic? I've never had a fit before. You know, like I was thinking to myself, like it was actually quite obnoxious. I was like, blimey.
Yeah. Sometimes I did get a bit of a headache when that was going on.
Yeah.
I must say I do enjoy the visuals a lot. More so when it's just like the camera panning over different scenes, or like it's going through the Tokyo skies and it goes up into like a plane, and then you see a baby sucking on a nipple, and then it goes down again and just goes over Tokyo. That was like a really just ethereal moment for me. But I was more detached from the scenes where it's just like colors and patterns. This is what what Oscar was seeing, just like these weird patterns, and that didn't really work for me. But I enjoyed it more when it was using Tokyo as like for the scenery and for the visuals that they could get out of it.
Yeah, to be honest, I couldn't agree more. It was literally the isolated flashing visuals that were just like, oh, here's a fucking kaleidoscope shoved up your ass, sort of shit. When it was actually accentuating something else and was actually like, oh, this is Tokyo, innit? Fucking you think of cyberpunk Neo Tokyo kind of shit, sort of like classic vibes and stuff. One thing I do have to commend the film on in regards to visual effects is, obviously I didn't look at the date when this film was released. I watched it and I generally thought, oh, probably like 2017 or something. No, it's 2009. Some of the quality of some of the effects, because I remember thinking at one point, okay, when they're panning around some of these buildings, I thought, is it blurry for an artistic choice, or is it blurry because they're trying to hide how shit some of this looks? And coming from 2009, I did think it looked really good.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it was a pleasant surprise, the fact it was that old. I was like, oh, okay.
You guys like the abortion scene?
Oh yeah, that was rank.
That was horrendous. You see like this tiny little aborted fetus in the petri dish.
Yeah,
They'd have to like zoom into it. Yeah.
So apparently the film, they filmed it in 2007 to 2008, and it spent over a year in post-production. So that's probably why like the effect work and stuff is so good, because they spent so long working on it.
Oh, fair enough. That's cool.
They did it. Well done.
Bloody did it. Congratulations. Because I will admit, the quality of the visual aspect for its age, especially, was one of the more positive points I had.
Camera just keeps going into things. Just keeps going in.
Yeah.
Enter the Void was a weird one to watch. I've never watched a movie that had been filmed like it before. I mean, there's filming in first person, and then there's filming like you're astro projecting, which is basically what this is. I like the fact that after the guy died, the camera sort of lingered around and actually went into people, seeing from their point of view. And I like how his death was foreshadowed from the beginning. Like the beginning half hour is just him talking about what happens after he dies and whether you stay around or whatnot. And he gets given the Bible, which is about essentially afterlife. The main guy's relationship with his sister is very fucking weird. The fact that like she's just sitting there completely nude in front of him is so strange. But the movie, it was such a weird way of filming a movie, but it was so unique and it was decent. That's my review for Enter the Void.
Want to go on to ratings then?
Yeah, all right. Who wants to start?
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, I love this movie. I picked it because I knew it would split people, but I've watched it twice now, and I think it's just a very inventive, disorienting, and cold movie, but I get a lot out of it, and I think I'll probably rewatch it again at some point and get even more out of it. My rating, if I was to go decimal places, I'd probably say it's somewhere between 9.5 and a 10, but I'll just go up to a 10 because it's easier.
Then,
I definitely think it's got issues, but I definitely think it's got issues, but it's not. The issues aren't never really a problem for me. Like, it's just an experience that I love, and yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
I agree with that. I agree it has some glaring issues, definitely, and I was kind of bored for like a stretch of it, but it was like this weird out of my body boredom where I was just sort of entranced with it. This movie was, horrible to watch. Made me want to die. Made me feel like I was high. And I will probably watch it again, to be honest. It's just a very unique experience that I had that I haven't gotten out of any other movie ever. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
All right. I will never watch this film again. To sum it up, as I opened with, I found it as deep and as profound as a thimble of piss. You know? Some of it was entertaining. I won't bother watching it again, but I appreciate what they did, and as an experience, it was pretty cool at times. I understand objectively some bits were good, but I just didn't dig it overall. I'm going for a 6.2. I feel that's a little bit generous still coming from me.
Hey,
Nice.
no problem.
Connor also gave it a 6 out of 10.
Okay. Fair enough.
Lovely.
So everyone was still fairly positive, even if not everyone loved it.
Yeah. I feel like watching it, I definitely had a more negative outlook on it, but actually sitting down and talking about it, it was able to sort of dig up some of the positives for me a bit more. Because I must admit, I didn't watch it in one go. I watched the first half an hour. I was like, I can't do this. And I tried watching the first half an hour again. I was like, this fucking sucks. Then I finally slogged through and watched the whole thing. So, yeah, it was an experience. To say
it's
the
not an
least.
experience for everyone.
Absolutely not.
It's a unique movie, but it's not something I could recommend to everyone just because
Maybe.
it is so out there.
Maybe I'm just a big fucking square. Never know.
I could not show this movie to my mum. Not at all.
No, especially with all the
No.
sons shagging mums in it.
Oh, yeah. Not up the mum's alley.
All right, I'll give it an extra point if you're into Sigmund Freud in it. There you go. All right.
Right.
On to Matt's
Next up.
pick.
We got my pick. I picked a movie from 2013, directed by John S. Baird, called Filth. In Filth, James McAvoy plays Bruce, a police officer in Edinburgh who desperately wants the promotion of chief inspector at his precinct, and he'll do absolutely anything to get it. And the plot itself acts as a sort of loose framework for this spiral of debauchery that we see Bruce go down as he indulges in sex and drugs and rock and roll. What do we all think of this movie?
Definitely felt something. I will say, at times I felt a bit uneasy. Times I laughed. Other times I felt really sorry for the main character. But overall, I was entertained, and I would watch this film again.
Very nice.
Yeah. I wasn't a massive fan of it, but I can understand why people would enjoy it so much. And I didn't have a terrible time watching it. Like, it's entertaining. I just not massively into it.
Yeah. I've seen this movie before, a very long time ago. I remember liking it a lot more than I do now. I still like it, but I have a lot of problems with it. I think that because this is a comedy movie, a lot of the humor seemed to be kind of juvenile for me, or a bit too juvenile. It didn't really rub off on me as much as I think it did when I was maybe back when this came out. But I do appreciate most of all James McAvoy as the main actor. I've never seen him play a kind of character as this. He's sort of just this horrible narcissist who steadily becomes more and more unhinged, and I really appreciated that from him.
He's a massive cunt in the film,
Oh, absolutely.
to be quite frank.
Yeah.
I will say, obviously they can see in the description the other films, but I've noticed we've accidentally themed this one. Really fucking broken men.
Yeah.
I just realised after watching all 4 of the films, we've got 4 very broken blokes.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly. Overall, wait, have I already given my bit on this film? My memory's dreadful. I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was about to say it again. Chris, done yours, weren't you?
we've all
Edit
done
Yeah.
it.
Edit
Brief
this
it.
bit out. Edit this bit out.
It's
Sorry,
fine.
I literally forgot. All right. All right, let's start with some negatives we didn't like, and then maybe move on to some positives. Do you want to start, Chris?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of this film, your enjoyment of it is based around your enjoyment of the main character, because it's like basically a character piece. It's all about James McAvoy's character. And I feel like if you don't like the character, like in a cynical, like you accept he's terrible and you enjoy watching him be depraved and awful, then you would enjoy it a lot. But I didn't really. I found some of it was very funny, but a lot of the time I just found the character obnoxious, and I found him really unlikable, and that kind of ruined a lot of the film for me. Like I was just watching this person that I really hated and didn't find funny at all.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I do get that as well. Maybe not as much as you do though. There's like a quote where like he's talking to his mate Bladesy, and he says, "What made you want to join the force, Bruce?" He says, "Police oppression, brother." "Oh, and you wanted to stamp it out from the inside?" "No, I wanted to be a part of it." It's like this is the kind of dick we're dealing with then.
Well, a question you probably ask yourself many a time while watching this is, how the fuck has this guy still got a job?
Yeah.
Which they
Yeah.
do actually answer later on in the film, which is the whole point. I feel like you almost part of it almost makes it a difficult watch is he is a cunt, just to put it straightforward. But you find out why and how he's got to that point. But it's almost like played in reverse chronological order, if that makes sense. You know, we're finding out the consequence. No, we start off with the consequence, and then later on we find out what was the action that caused that. So I felt like
Yeah.
it was a bit tough to watch at times, not going to lie. I love how I'll quickly bring up the description actually. The most common way I saw this film described was it opens with a bigoted, corrupt cop. And not going to lie, I love how bigoted was like the highlight, as if that was the worst thing he's done.
Yeah.
Like literally, like he gets literally a child to suck him off at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bigoted was the worst bit, supposedly, I'll say. You know, but yeah, no, it's definitely a difficult character to like. A character that I started to like more towards the end of the film, once you actually find out why he is like he is. You know, but it almost dropped as a bit of a bombshell, I will admit. Maybe I'm just a bit slow, because obviously the cracks start to slowly appear, and it's like, oh, he's actually fucking insane. Like, I mean, like
Yeah.
it went from, oh, he's an arsehole to he's insane.
He needs some sort of mental help. He's not doing well for himself. There's like these weird, like I don't even know if I would call them hallucination scenes, but just scenes where his wife, Carol, is just like dressing up and like saying she's like addressing us and saying that when Bruce gets his promotion, that'll be the day, then we'll be great again. And it's like, well, and then
Actually,
at the end,
yeah.
you see that it's not Carol at all. It was Bruce himself who was dressing up as Carol to cope with the loss of her. She like ran away with his child, with their
black guy.
child.
Which
Yeah.
helps reinforce or created his hatred, because there's a bit where obviously they're talking about black blokes and white women together, and you literally almost see him start foaming at the mouth as if a particular nerve has been hit. And he's saying, any lass that would get with one of them. He's literally foaming at the mouth. All right,
Yeah.
that bit. That's when I thought, oh, that was a bit, because all the other comments in the film were a bit, you know, a bit backhanded, a bit like, okay, yeah, that was a bit out of order, but it was sort of like just quick. You know, this was like general vitriol and hatred you could see for a second, like, oh, he really fucking hates black people. You know, so some bits like that were a bit like to watch, but
He's got a lot of horrible biases.
yeah.
He's also got like these flashbacks he keeps having of what we learn is his dead brother, Davy, who he like pushed down a coal mountain at some point, and then like he got buried in the coal mountain and he tried to save him, but he was already dead. So he's got that along with just like piling up with all the drug use and his wife leaving him.
Yeah, it's definitely a man who was already struggling. Then the straw that broke the camel's back sort of situation where he then just finally cracks. Like, yeah, no, it's cool. Let me grab my notes quick. One amateur. My notes aren't right in front of me. I actually, weirdly enough, of all the films, had the most notes for Filth.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
So I'll actually
makes up for my lack of notes for.
We did a little switcheroo.
Yeah.
So I'll read some of my key points because I must admit, maybe some of my notes are slightly comical. My first, My first note was cheating lady ? Because I didn't know the vibe it was given off was like, oh, his wife's dressing up, she's going out because she's going to fuck the boss and get him the promotion. But it don't matter because they'll be great because he'll have the promotion. That's weirdly the vibe I got at the beginning. Her dressing up and going out. I then said, nasty Norks beat Asian guy, cheating Mary sees it and they run. I personally found it weird that they ran. It was just like, oh, it's just some woman in the park. I mean, she's seen your face. You're just going to run. What difference does that make? Yeah. But in reality, spoiler alert, I think they ran because it was James McAvoy dressed as a woman.
Yeah.
My next note, being something that did actually make me laugh. I don't know if it was meant to be a little bit of symbolism for like his ego and stuff, but he sort of like confidently leans up to the side right in the beginning to let this big old stinker of a fart out. And it's just like a tiny little. I don't know why that just got me.
That's like again with like the narcissism that he just exudes.
Yeah. I think the Asian dude who was killed at the beginning, his ethnicity changed every 5 minutes according to the police station.
Did it?
Like he moved to a different part of Asia by the sound of it. Like 1 minute he's Chinese, then he's Japanese. I swear someone called him a slur that begins with a G that was used for Vietnamese back in the day. I've actually got a positive point here. I said, I like how the characters were introduced with a short comical montage, which the montage is obviously coming from McAvoy's character, Bruce, his perspective of each one. I dig that.
Yeah.
I don't know what this note is, but it was just threesome scene, lol.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's because the woman's like, you stuck it in me yet?
Yeah, he's got his mate who's on the force. He's really insecure because his dick's really short.
Yeah. But in the long run, he wins.
He does win. He gets the chief inspector position.
Yeah. I noticed a bit of a cycle in this. Let me scroll down. The cycle being Bruce causes a problem, almost as if he can gather some sort of like ego of some kind to then be the solution to the problem. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, his friend, let me have a look.
Bladesy.
Is it Bladesy? No, not. Although, yes, he does it to Bladesy as well. I'm trying to find, was it Inglis was his surname? Oh, no,
Peter Ingles.
Got it. Inglis. Yeah. No, Inglis was the gay one.
I think you are talking about.
The one who's married to the woman Carol. Do you remember he's having an affair with her? I forgot his name.
He's married to Carol.
Yeah, the bloke who's married to Carol.
To Moaning Myrtle.
Yeah. No, that's Bunty.
Bunty. Carol is Bruce's wife.
Oh, not Carol. Oh my god, I forgot her name. Oh, Mary. Is it? Hold
Mary. On. The woman whose son he saves.
Oh my lord. The one where it's like, turn my gas off, buddy. Turn my gas off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Her name.
I love how he's having sex with her, right? Obviously cheating and causing unrest in that bloke's relationship. Yeah. And the next minute he's in the pub and he's like, I think she's cheating on me. I mean, he's like, oh no, she's as loyal as they get. But
Yeah.
obviously he's on causing the issue, and it's like this literally constant cycle of he causes an issue, and then he's the one that consoles the friend about it. And I feel like later on, a point where it sort of becomes real for him is a breaking point where that bloke goes to slit his wrists. I mean, it's like, oh, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing loads of that shit. All throughout the movie. There's like a point where he's just sitting on the toilet and he's like, I might as well do this. He's like, writes on the toilet cubicle,
Yeah.
like, Peter Ingalls sucks dick. And he goes out, he's like, who the hell has slandered Peter Ingalls?
And
I will
he's
not take this.
so over the top about it. And it just makes it so mac that I just found it really funny. Like, that was like a constant cycle that happened.
Then his boss like takes him to his office and he's like, you know what, he is gay though, you know. And he's like, what does it matter if he's gay? He's like, oh, you know, it's not a slur if he's like gay actually. All right. So it's like it's this like horrible behavior that goes way beyond Bruce, but it also sort of permeates in the whole police force as well. Yeah. Obviously, he calls was it Bunty we mentioned? It was his best friend's wife, pretending to be this like character, Frank Sidebottom.
Yeah.
Who is like this guy with like a paper mache head.
I swear that bloke is a film in itself.
Frank,
with Michael Fassbender. I've never seen, I saw it like years ago actually.
That was a good movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
That'll be on next week's episode, guys. Check it out. It won't really, I just made that up. But,
that's another problem he's sort of created himself, and he's sworn that he's going to go and fix it, but he just keeps making it worse.
It's like, it's actually, have you ever heard of, I'm going to mispronounce the name of this, or it's going to be called something, the Firefighter's Paradox or something like that. I might find that, where basically they found a bunch of firefighters were arsonists because they were bored and not putting out enough fires. So firefighters were setting fires to then put out. Was it the hero's paradox or something like that? Or fallacy? I'm actually butchering this. I'm not smart at all. But yeah, it reminded me of that. Like, he's starting a problem so he can act like he's fixing it.
Yeah.
And it gets a bit too real for him at one point when one of his mates, the only person that actually cares about him, is in prison because of him. And one of his other friends, well, co-workers more like, tries topping himself, you know?
Yeah.
So I must admit, I accidentally sort of slipped into some of the positives I liked there. You guys got any positives for this movie?
I just think James McAvoy, just generally in this film, gives one of his best performances. Although I'm not like a huge fan of the character per se, I think he delivers it incredibly well. He there's a lot of like effort and stuff he put into the film, like he's a method actor as well. So he would apparently, before filming every day, he would stay up all night and drink half a bottle of whiskey, so he would come in incredibly rough and hungover. And he also apparently he has the ability to vomit at will. So there's that scene in the film where he like froze up out of his car door, and that was real. He just made himself throw up on camera.
Oh, dude, I actually have more appreciation for James McAvoy. I was about to say, one thing they did really well in the makeup department, which I guess ain't actually the makeup department, is he looks like shit throughout the whole fucking film.
Yeah.
He just progressively looks worse and worse as it goes
So
on.
if he's a method actor, did he practice having his knob sucked by a 15-year-old? Or was that just...
Maybe.
What a scene.
That's
that
what
was.
Hollywood's
That
like,
was horrible.
so.
That scene did actually weird me out because I thought, he's not actually going to go through with it. It's just going to be like some sort of bluff to, scare him. You know, the beast routine, they called it, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, no, she actually does go for it. And the only thing that stops is the fact it's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Like, who taught you that move? She's 15, man.
Yeah. So, obviously, doing a good job of making a really unlikable character, them bits, but I feel like making him unlikable was creating a stronger foundation for then the story as a whole, like the story arc. Like if he was just a little bit of a dick,
Yeah.
the ending wouldn't hit as
Mhm.
hard because it just truly cements how fucking broken of a human being he is. You know?
Yeah, he sort of turns into this like pitiful character. Really.
Yeah, you feel sorry for him, you know,
Mm.
because it's almost like, oh, look where he used to be, and you could take that as where he used to be as in this like inflated ego, or where he used to be before then. Because to go back to the comment where I said, how the fuck does this dude even have a job? It's because he was once a really great police officer and detective, supposedly, in the film. And that's the only reason. It's almost like everyone's just feeling sorry for him. And
Yeah.
most of the film, like, oh, God, like,
Yeah.
how's this guy still around, you know?
There was a really great scene that sort of is one of the only like scenes that sort of tries to have solely just like an emotional punch. Is where like the woman whose son he saved like comes to the precinct and she like gives him a scarf that she knitted, which is very sweet. And then she like introduces Bruce to her son as the man who tried to save his dad when no one else would. Yeah, sorry, it was his dad, not his son. But yeah, I did really like that. It sort of it does fit with the character's pain and where he's at. And then I do like the fact that at the end well, spoiler alert, we were already in spoilers, but he hangs himself with the scarf. It was very bittersweet in a way.
Yeah, it's some good symbolism, sort of like good way to end his like redemption arc, if that makes sense. Because the thing is, it would have been, I hate to say it, too, like obviously it's the ending some people wanted, but it would have been too cheap and easy because they're like knocking at the door. Because you see, he doesn't answer the phone message, and like, no, answer the phone message. This is the woman that's
Yeah.
going to fix your life. Then and then she takes a step further, and she's definitely keen by actually knocking as he's about to hang himself, and he's there like hesitating for a moment, you know, and they're like, oh, that would be too cheap and easy of an ending, I think, just for him to like get back off the chair and go, wow, time to fix my life, you know, and get with her. Too cheap and easy. He just hangs himself in his uniform, like his last bit of pride, if that makes sense, you know. Dresses himself up nicely, does himself in with the scarf. You know, I think it would have been quite comical if, you know, like, I know the fucking bit of the roof fucking fell down and he's like just laying there with the scarf like half choked out and she just like opens a door and she's just like, that would have been just as fitting of an ending maybe, but I don't know. I like the ending. It was like, I feel like he had to die though.
Yeah. I like how abrupt it is, like when it cuts to the credits, like you see literally less than a second of him actually hanging himself and it just instantly cuts away.
I think if they
then it comes on with like this like this really happy song plays afterwards.
Yeah, well, it's almost a happy moment. It's like he had to die. Like some characters go through like a redemption arc in other like series of films and shit, and it's like they've done absolutely abhorrent stuff, and it's like, okay, their redemption arc is they have to die, if that makes sense. Like I think another example, forget how badly it ended. Like Max, have you finished Game of Thrones yet? Yeah, the Hound, the end of his story, just to quickly lament on a similar point is, yes, his character, he became a better person, but in reality, he still had to die to sort of redeem himself. And I think it's like a similar thing here.
Yeah.
He just had to die. I've said had to die 12 times, I believe.
He had to die.
He had to die. He had to die.
The only problem I had with that scene was the music choice during that scene where he's like got that videotape that his friend's watching and there's like a really cringy cover of Creep by Radiohead playing.
Yeah, I was actually going to comment on that. Like, I don't know, I feel like a bit cheap of a song to go for.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a cheesy choice to pick during that emotional scene.
I feel like the other thing is they purposely like went for a cover so it wouldn't be too cliche, but I feel like in some way it weirdly cemented more clichéness about it. Like how cheap.
Yeah, especially because it starts off like slower and more somber. Like it has, I think it's like a piano version of it at first.
If it's stuck like that, it could maybe work. But when it just goes into diet Radiohead, I'd call it, when it actually kicks in, I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. Everybody knows. One thing I will comment that's in my notes, I liked. I thought the camera work was actually really good. All
Mhm.
the angles I saw made sense in themselves, told something. I liked a lot of the dialogue. A lot of the dialogue was one-on-one, and it
Yeah.
was always really close up to the faces. And I'll have to commend all the actors. All the actors did a
Mhm.
really bloody good job in just
Yeah,
telling
super,
everything
yeah.
with their face as well as the dialogue. Maybe after finishing Enter the Void and then going to Filth, maybe my expectation for acting a bit skew on the whiff, but
No, I got that too. I just thought like a lot of great character actors, and just the way they were able to embody the characters. I never really saw James McAvoy. I just saw Bruce, or I never saw
yeah,
just any of the other actors that were playing all these eccentric and interesting characters.
yeah, man. One thing I didn't understand is what the accent of, like, he's got like that doctor and it's like hallucination. It's like maybe a subconscious or something talking to him. Fuck knows. The
Yeah.
accent changes on him. So, I think that's just the actor just being a goofball. Don't know, but
I don't know.
them scenes are a bit peculiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't too sure about those scenes.
I don't feel like they added too much, and unfortunately, I did see them as slight exposition dumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At times, like literally, it's like, oh, he's got trauma. It's like, remember, Brucey, when you killed your little brother? And it's like, oh, what? What?
Yeah.
It's like, you killed him, and then your daddy hated you. I'm like, what? It just sort of like throws it at you. It's very
Yeah. It's sort of been
hand
like
over
sort of subtly alluding to it with like the shots of like his brother in like the ash, or like he sees him in the mirror, and then like at the end he's like just having this hallucination. He's like, and you killed your brother, didn't you remember? I'm like, all right.
yeah, but he has an Australian accent, the doctor, at one point.
Does he?
Yeah, that's why it just weirded me out. I kept saying his accent changed. Like one minute he was Scottish, and the next minute he's Australian. Fuck knows. I don't know. When he's Australian, he's got like the weird prosthetic head on, like with the giant brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And he's like, Brucey, don't you remember? I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I was a bit confused at that.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
shame. I do really like that actor. I do. I think he does a good job in everything that I've seen him in.
Yeah, he's class. But yeah, talking about the creep cover at the end. I think the score was a bit weak.
Yeah.
I will admit. It's a bit of a bummer, but it is what it is. It's sort of
I didn't
comes in-
find it memorable or notable at all. I didn't really even notice it.
It's like oh god, I'm actually going to completely forget who, but John S. Baird or Bard or Bird, whatever. Obviously, didn't he do Trainspotting? Or am I thick?
No, he did not.
No,
What did he do?
but I don't know. The writer of Train Spotting, like the original book, he wrote the original book of this.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just clicked on that director. He's making a Tetris film.
Oh man!
Unless
Wow.
that film is literally about the origins of Tetris as a game made for the Soviet people. It literally used to be called Tetris, the Soviet mind game, that was then stolen by Nintendo. Unless it's about that, it will most likely fucking stink. But I was going to
Yeah.
say, score-wise, it suffers from that English stereotype, I hate to say, where like, who's the bloke who did Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels? Danny Boyle?
Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie, fucking hell. Danny Boyle, who the fuck's Danny Boyle? I'm so bad at remembering people.
Danny Boyle was the director of Train Spotting.
Close enough. But that sort of English stereotype of the score just sucks. I don't know what it is of like them sort of films.
Yeah.
Like the score to Lock, Stock and Snatch, some of it sucks. Some of the song choice. Like them sort of films have that sort of like, it'll introduce a character, but dun, 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 Park Life will be like playing. And it's like, this is Danny. He's a tough geezer. I don't know, I just had that sort of vibe. And it just gripes me, this weak score when that shit happens. And it's just
Yeah.
unashamedly English when it does that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I gotta say, I liked a lot of the you were talking about the camera work, but
Yeah.
I just love the look of the movie all around. I love the scenes of Edinburgh, the Scottish old looking scenery. Just looked really nice. They go to like Germany as well for a bender, and there were like some really great just uses colour in that as well. Really loved that.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a particular shot I remember where there's like this street that goes downhill and it's slightly curved in Edinburgh, and all the colours all the houses are different colours, like bloody Balamory or something.
Yeah.
As he's like walking down, and it's like he looks like shit. There's like people drinking Bucky, pregnant women like smoking, and people fighting. And it looks like shit. Everyone looks like shit. And they're acting like shit. But the place itself looks nice. And then there's a geezer laying in the road dying and stuff. And it was just a nice contrast. And like, I don't know, I thought like the camera work was tasteful and made everything look good. It was a good looking film.
Yeah. It's like the introduction where he's talking about how great Scotland is, just panning over all these like crazy characters, just like sitting on the pavement, like eating fish and chips and like missing teeth. It's great. He like goes up to this kid, he steals his balloon, and then he like puts his middle fingers up at him. Yeah, it's great.
Anyone else got any bits to add? Oh, actually, I've got something. I don't understand the purpose of the animal face hallucinations.
Yeah.
No.
I feel like that was a real last minute idea production.
It did seem forced in.
It added nothing. And it was it weren't like subtle. Like some of the other things were subtle, like there's sort of like his warped reality of how he sees his life. And then the moment someone else is sat in his house, there's fucking beer cans under cushions and shit like that. You know? And he's like, oh,
yeah, the animal.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
The animal faces just come in like they're just straight up jump scares.
They are
just so
pretty bad
unnecessary.
ones too. Like, elephant face. So,
Yeah,
they weren't subtle at all. And the thing is, the animals that they're then picturing, they even like symbolize anything. Like, oh, this is it. And an elephant, he never forgets. But no, it didn't do anything with that. Or it's a police officer. They all gonna have like pig faces or something like that. Buying into that stereotype. No, just one of them's a pig, one of them's an elephant, that one's a witch. I'm like, okay. I did actually like that bit where he's talking to the female police officer, Drummond, who obviously he's got no respect for because one, it's a work rival, and two, it's a woman. So obviously his character does not care, right? He sort of has a huge go at her and stuff like that. Like, oh, you don't know me, you're a fucking pseudo-psychiatrist, left-wing bullshit, he actually says. And then she actually sort of like shuts him down, and he then takes a step back and he apologizes. He sits down, he starts crying, and then she's like, look, you need help, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he just hallucinates and sees her as a witch. And he's like, I thought, yeah, you dirty fucking slag, you dirty chap, who's cock you been sotting? Like that, and then storms out. And it's like, okay, bipolar or schizophrenia, he's insane. He is broken, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I must admit, I had the most notes for this film, but a lot of them are literal gibberish. I do have one I can actually comment on. I thought the fourth wall breaks were tasteful.
Yeah. I thought so. They weren't like so in your face with like Deadpool type of thing, but
yeah,
they fit.
Yeah, they do fit because obviously he's insane and he's got maybe a couple of personalities going on you don't fucking truly know. Where other films will not be too tasteful and be like, hey, you enjoying the popcorn? It's like, you fuck off. But yeah, not gonna lie, I'm running out of things to say about this one. Yourselves?
Yeah, I haven't got anything else.
I like the part where those kids are hanging out is the guys who killed the guy in the beginning. He's like, did you do her up the arse? Where else is there? Pussies for faggots.
Also, that line that tickled me as well. There's something about lines like that are complete and utter like oxymorons in themselves that make me laugh so much. Like my favourite one has to be, you guys haven't seen Boondock Saints yet, have you?
No.
That'll be for a future episode, but this isn't a spoiler since Willem Dafoe is described as a gay detective in it. But there's a bit where he's trying to talk on the phone, and a man he's obviously pulled at the bar last night is like trying to cuddle him in bed the next morning. He keeps like flicking his head to get him off him. And then once he hangs the phone up, he's like, what the fuck was that? And the guy's like, oh, I'm just trying to cuddle. It's a cuddle. What are you, a fag? It just walks out, and it's like, I said, you guys bummed all last night. Like, what?
Yeah.
And that line just makes me laugh. So it actually gets me every time, that bit. It's so stupid. That oxymoron moments. But yeah. We got anything else, or are we wrapping this movie up?
I think there was like one moment like towards the end where Bruce is sort of watching videos of him and Carol, and he's sort of crying over it, and then he has to like call up Bunty, his mate's wife, because he's been harassing her, and he's just like tears in his eyes. He's just like, "Would you like to see my cock, Bunty?" It's like,
we got to see your cock.
That's what it sounds like. If you haven't seen this film or don't know the cast, if you've seen Harry Potter 2, The Chamber of Secrets, Moaning Myrtle plays a woman called Bunty, who's married to Bruce's friend, Bladesy, I believe.
Yeah.
Married to Bladesy, who's a bit of a shrimp man, you know. Bit of a shrimp man, you know, sort of curled back, no spine type. Not having the most successful marriage. I mean, James McAvoy's character Bruce goes in, harasses her over the phone, and then this is another instance of creating a problem which he then vows to solve. He then goes around there in person and says, "Look, what these sick bastards calling you truly want is they want you to hang up. What will really throw him off is pretend you enjoy it." Where he's really just setting up his own free sex line.
Yeah.
All right. To the point where he then takes it too far and then goes to have sex with her in person, which is like the reality point where it doesn't look like he's enjoying it because she's like going to town, moaning about her husband so much. But it's like, oh, this is like the only guy that actually likes and cares about me. Now I'm shagging his wife. So
Yeah.
that was a moment. Something I realized we didn't even talk about at all. A point in Bruce's sort of broken state of mind is the ending. Well, just before the ending, where the reveal that, oh, he was the blonde witness to the murder. He dresses in his wife's clothes. And can I just say how funny it is when he throws that guy out the window? I don't know why it made me laugh so much.
They like capture him. They capture him, and then like he makes out with him.
Well,
for a bit.
it's, you know, the guy, you know, like when they're talking about having sex with women, it's so like, oh, that's literally two virgins bloody talking. They've never had sex. You know, it's like, oh, did you do it up the arse? As you said, you know, that line earlier.
Yeah.
That guy is the one who ends up making out with James McAvoy. You know, he like sends everyone else out of the room, and he's like, oh yeah, I want this puffer to myself. Like as if, oh, he's gonna beat him and torture him, and he like beats him a bit and starts kissing him. And it's like, oh, he's a closeted gay. To which James McAvoy's character Bruce is then like actually going for it, like tongue and all. I'm like, bloody hell. But in reality, he actually goes to bite his lip off, pick him up and throw him out of a window. It's quite comical. If you're not going to watch the film, watch that bit at least. Because like, it made me chuckle, I will admit. Just out the window. It like happened within like a second. It was so quick.
This whole movie is very quick. It's only an hour and a half. It just goes by like nothing.
Indeed.
Filth was probably my favourite movie of this marathon. I loved James McAvoy in this role. He was so funny, and oh god, it just reminded me so much of the same like charisma that Colin Farrell did in Bruges. I know it's not a strict comparison, but just the charisma that them two actors had. I liked James McAvoy's acting throughout all of it, the way that he portrayed such a broken man throughout the movie, and the twist at the end where he was dressing up as his wife or his ex-wife was I didn't see that one come in. But honestly, I had never expected James McAvoy to do a role like this. I mean, after seeing him in Glass or Split and the X-Men movies, this is so different to what he usually does. But his acting was amazing, writing was good, film was pretty good.
The ratings. All right. Who wants to start?
I'll start. I didn't hate this movie, but I definitely wasn't in love with it. I thought it was all right. The acting's really great, but that's probably the only thing that really drew me in, and the writing's pretty decent as well. I definitely prefer Train Spotting. But yeah.
Oh, you prefer the critically acclaimed Train Spotting to Filth?
Really?
Who would have thought?
Controversial pick, but yeah, I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 10. It was pretty middle of the road for me.
Fair.
Mm.
I was about to say,
yeah.
the Train Spotting comment. What a lukewarm take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this movie. I don't think it's amazing. I do have some problems with it, a lot of problems with it. The plot is very, very loose. But that's sort of like a good thing and a bad thing. James McAvoy is the real pull here, and it just does everything that I feel like it needs to. But it's not super subtle. It's very in your face. It's very provocative. But whether you're into that or not, or whether you're into like the juvenile humor that it just exudes in spades, maybe this is for you. Maybe it's not. I'm gonna give it 6 out of 10.
Fair enough. I'm personally
Nice.
going towards the high 6 range, so 6.8, I'd say.
Sure.
Like I was thoroughly entertained. The sort of themes of shattered ego, a bit of a background story about mental health. So I thought, yeah, it's slightly above popcorn, just like explosion kind of entertainment. I was like, yeah, it's a little bit above. You could take it as face value, that sort of entertainment. But if you give it a good bit of thinking, there's a bit more room there for a bit of digging. But overall, I enjoyed it, and I would watch it again.
Lovely.
Nice. And Connor gave it a 7.5.
Ooh,
Lovely.
fair enough.
Now we go on to Connor's recommendation. Chris, do you want to introduce it? Because Connor's not here.
Yeah, sure. So Connor picked Close Encounters of the Third Kind, directed by Steven Spielberg. It's a film about aliens. They come to Earth, and a group of people basically go insane and try to track down the aliens and find out where they're going to land. And there's also the FBI or CIA or whoever it is who are creating like a landing pad and trying to get the aliens in and trying to create an alien-human relationship. I think that sums up the plot, kind of.
Pretty much.
What did everyone think of Close Encounters?
I was entertained. It was pretty good. I will say, definitely a product of its time. Definitely feels like a 70s film.
Yeah,
which
I'll
obviously it is a 70s film. I'm not saying it's aged badly, because I think some of the aspects are still really entertaining and stuff. But personally, kind of felt almost like it didn't go anywhere. Like, I can imagine if I was a teenager in the 70s and I watched it in the cinema, I would have been blown away, because it would have been like a visual spectacle, and I don't know, it just feels a bit dated thematically with some of the stuff that's going on, like some of the talking points sort of definitely put itself in a box time-wise.
I agree with that completely. I was sort of like, I'm the last person to be like, oh, this is an alien movie, but where's the aliens, man? Oh, you're just gonna watch these people talk all the time? It's just a talky movie? Like, I'm the last person to do that, but at some point, I want to see some goddamn aliens, man. You barely see the aliens, or you see these UFOs and you barely get to see those. You don't get to see the UFOs or aliens until like the last 10 minutes of the movie, and then like you see like flashes of the UFOs in the beginning. I was not here for it, man. I didn't really like it. I thought it was quite boring to see all these people in like uniform talking about like some bullshit about like how they were going to find the aliens. It just really like got on my nerves how underwhelming this all was for like a sci-fi movie, and especially by Steven Spielberg, who I don't love as a director, but when I watch a Spielberg movie, I do enjoy them a lot of the time, and this just really didn't do it for me.
Definitely sets a high bar with other films, which weirdly didn't feel is met with this. But obviously, one of his earlier works in it, if you think of it too.
Yeah.
But
I have always enjoyed this movie. I do agree, it's quite slow. I definitely think the scenes of the government could have been cut down quite a bit. and I would have liked to have seen more of like the main character Roy, his mental deterioration, because I find like the scenes where he's like throwing like the dirt in his window and stuff like that, I find those scenes quite comical, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff they could have done there. It's a shame they didn't focus more on that, man, rather than the government.
I was kind of annoyed by Roy, honestly. He grated on me a bit. I do like the scene where like he gets beamed by the UFO and like his truck shaking around, all these things are going everywhere. It's just really good use of effects. But then like he gets home and then he's like making a sculpture out of his mashed potato and he's like sobbing or whatever. I'm just like, I don't care what you're doing, man.
I feel like his character takes like a negative arc. Like it starts off, he's like the happy-go-lucky, curious and naive type, you know. Luck just perchance happens to let him get potentially a promotion at work, you know. Like, oh, this is cool. He gets given this good job to do and stuff like that. And it just all goes downhill. It just becomes quite unlikable. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Although
there's like cheats on his wife.
Yeah. That's one thing I fucking didn't notice until, because I actually watched the last bit twice just to truly cement it in to understand what happened. And I missed on the first watching the kiss. I was like, oh, I didn't kiss her.
Yeah.
It sort of felt weird. There was like a weird...
It's so unnecessary.
Yeah, there was like a weird sexual tension between them, like straight away. I was like...
yeah.
I don't know, I didn't get it. He just, I don't know, he sort of just ends up treating his family like shit.
It does.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
pretty
okay,
much.
fair enough, the mashed potato mountain, because his wife's like looking at him like, oh, he's crazy, he's wasting all this mashed potato. But look, love, you're the one who decided to make 8 kilos of mashed potato, stick it in a bowl to leave it to go cold on the side. One, it's like pale pasty white. There is no butter in it. Just saying, it don't taste any good, that mash. It's goopy as fuck, right? I bet it tastes like shit. And I bet it's gritty as well. I bet the texture just sucks. And he makes that mountain.
Didn't even mash it properly. Just potato chunks just strewed around the place.
It just looked like really bad mash. And she made so much of it. And it's just sat on the side going cold. Because the thing is, he joins them late for dinner. Right? So it's already cold as fuck, probably. I don't know, that scene. I feel like the weird thing about it, because I hadn't actually seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Maybe I saw it when I was really young. I remember a few bits of it. But I feel like it's one of the films where you don't have to watch it to know everything that happens. It's had such a pop culture impact, you know. It's one of the films. Actually, a film I enjoy less after actually watching, unfortunately. I thought, oh yeah, that sounds like my cup of tea. You know, sci-fi, aliens, stuff like that. Oh, all these memorable bits. But you actually see them firsthand. It's like, oh, it was alright. It didn't really go anywhere, though.
Yeah.
It's a film. I've seen this film probably like 4 or 5 times throughout my life. And I definitely I remember having really good memories of it and really loving it. And I do still enjoy it quite a lot. But I definitely felt like rewatching it, I was like, there's definitely a lot of stuff here that other sci-fi films since it have done so much better. Like I can tell it's definitely like a landmark kind of, but it's a lot of the ideas and visual stuff has been improved upon in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a spectacle than a film. It feels like some of it like, hey, isn't this cool? More than, isn't this story entertaining?
Yeah. I do like a lot of like the visual elements of it, like the night sky always looked like a painting. I really enjoyed that. Or like there's a scene where like Barry, the little child, who calls their kid Barry, honestly.
Yeah, there's no baby Barrys out there.
There's no baby Barrys out there.
No baby
Stop
Trevors.
naming your kid Barry, stop naming your kid Trevor. But like all his toys start going off in his room and like he makes a lot of noise and like he like goes out of the house, he like just walks into like a forest or something, and his mum's like asleep. I'm like, man, if that happened to me, like when I was supposed to be sleeping, if I so much as whispered when I was supposed to be sleeping, my mum would hear that, come storming in.
I hear you turning the page of a book under your quilt.
Yeah.
Mate, it reminded me of a Home Alone 2, where he sleeps for like 17 hours through everyone packing their bags, leaving, and screaming and shouting in the morning, and he wakes up at like 11 a.m. I'm like, this geezer just slept for like 14, 15 hours, and he's 8. I remember being 8, and I'd sleep for like 3 hours, 4 hours tops, it felt like. But I don't know. It gave me that sort of vibe.
Especially when you're about to go on vacation.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, going back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, stuff's going off in her room as well, and she ain't waking up. The TV's going, and her first reaction isn't like, what the fuck? Which is really my reaction. She's like, Barry? Barry? And then, like, all right, sees him, like, wandering off into the pitch black cornfield. Her first reaction, she's just like, Barry. Mine would have been like, fuck, Barry, Barry. Fuck, boom, 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 running down the stairs, going outside. Barry, get your fucking ass back here now. That would be, that would, like, I don't know, is that just a difference between an English family and an American family? Maybe the 70s was
maybe.
They just don't care.
Yeah.
They just don't care in America.
Children were expendable in the 70s. Just ask the BBC. Ooh. No, I feel like we've been quite negative. Max, you did bring up some of the positive aspects.
But Barry wants to go with the aliens, doesn't he?
Yeah. Oh, he does. I mean, that is the whole
He loves
point.
those
They're
aliens.
Yeah.
They're like drawn to the aliens, if you know what I mean. There's that whole like convoy of them sat there waiting for them to come back. And
That's like a part of the movie that I really liked is when like Barry and his mum were like being invaded by the aliens. You got all these like crazy sounds going off, all these like all the appliances going haywire and all the bright colours. Looked insane.
Dude, oh my god,
Yeah.
that grating on the floor as the screws are turning. The thing is, I actually thought like, oh, is this film actually more sinister than I remember as a kid? No, it ain't.
No.
That's just like it was. I hate to say it. It almost reminds me of a 50s film, like a 50s horror film, where it'd be like, here's your 1 minute of action. Here's your 1 minute of spooky stuff. Now here's your 30 minutes of government talking about the monster so you can make out in the drive-in theater. Like, that's the kind of vibe I almost got. Like, if you skipped all the talking bits, I think most of it would still kind of make sense.
Well, nothing happens in the movie, does it? Like, what happens? Just like, what do we learn? They're aliens? Yeah, all right. We knew that anyway.
People were so relaxed to just fucking go and live with them. Like, that weirded me out a bit. Like, we don't even get like introduced to it much, and then they just sat there in a church with their red jumpsuits on for some reason, and all got like a fucking rucksack. I don't know what the fuck's in their rucksack. It's like, you get to live with the aliens now, huh? It's like, what? And then
Roy leaves his family behind to go live with them.
He leaves his original family, the new family that he could have then entered as well behind. He leaves so much behind. It just made me laugh. His like eagerness to go. Because the thing is, it's like, why did you bother coming here? Like someone asked him, and he's like, look, man, I just wanted to know if it was real. You know, because obviously he spent the whole film being like gaslit. You know, like you didn't really see that, and it's driving him nuts. You know, he's like, no, I just want to know if I did actually see it. He finally sees it, and before you know, he's in the red jumpsuit, and all the little fucking kids in prosthetic suits are touching him up and dragging him onto the ship. I have to commend the actor, Roy. The ramp he walks up is generally like 45 degrees, and it's just chrome. It's so shiny and smooth. I'm like, that dude is some actual strength in his feet to get up that without slipping at all. Like, I actually noticed one, because they're obviously like child actors in them little alien suits.
Mm-hmm.
Right? One of them actually falls over.
Yeah,
as he's going down the ramp. I noticed that. One of them fell down the ramp, and they just kept it in. I don't know why, it just tickled me so much. That's why I commended Roy's actor so much for making it up the ramp effortlessly. You know?
Oh my god, I didn't notice that. I got to go back and watch that now.
I will say I was a bit like the first alien they physically introduced us to. You see the one with the horrible spindly limbs. I actually wrote a note saying, "Wow, I'm glad they just didn't have the cliche green little men like they normally do."
Yeah,
I'm like, wow, that's actually a cool design that isn't too cliche. And then they've just got another alien species that just comes out and looks like cliche drawing I did when I was like 5 to 10.
Well, there's two. You've got not including that weird long-armed one, because you got the kids with the weird masks, and then you've got the other one, which actually obviously it looks like the cliched like pool alien, but it's still like the effects are really good because it's like an actual creation rather than someone wearing a mask.
Yeah. I will say about that one, what did make me laugh about that alien is because obviously he's the first one to actually come out and communicate with like the magic sign language they figured out somehow.
Through
I don't know how they got to that point. You know, the sign
musical
language,
notes.
the hand, like the hand, fist, twist, shake, or whatever the fuck they're doing with their hand. The sign language.
Bop it.
Yeah.
Twist it.
Smack it. But what's it called? The alien does it in return, and then it's like, oh, we've actually figured out communication. Like that's the true like cementing point of we can actually communicate with them.
Yeah.
But the alien like raises his hand up to do it because it starts off with a flat hand horizontal, and he like leaves it there for just like 2 seconds too long, and I just thought he was doing a Hitler salute, just straight out before he's doing a sick hail. I'm not even joking. I just started laughing because it's like he's just done like sign language to him and he's smiling, and the alien just gives him a fucking Nazi salute, and I thought he was able to just get back in the ship after that.
Imagine like if that's the turn it took. It just took a really dark turn. All of a sudden they were alien Nazis.
Oh god, the spread of the Reich goes beyond our solar system, you know.
Knows no bounds.
Knows no bounds. Blimey.
I do like that they weren't like that big of a threat though. They weren't really a threat. They were just sort of there, flying around.
Not gonna lie.
When you watch these like alien movies, a lot of them are sort of about like invasion, and this was sort of like an invasion movie, but it wasn't like malicious. I do like seeing that.
Although it was pretty nasty to kidnap people for 30 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They like paint it as a good thing afterwards. They're like, "Oh, thank you for returning our people."
Wow, he hasn't even aged at all. It's like, yeah, but his loved ones had. One thing they didn't do, well, they might have done that I wish I saw, was like more interaction than people that have like disappeared for 30 years. You know, it'd have been so cool if earlier on in the film, like 1 or 2 got dropped back somehow. You know, and you got like them trying to adjust to this like slightly different life and stuff. End up meeting a like shrimply, like a wrinkly old shriveled man, and he's like, "I'm your grandson," you know, something like that would have been cool. But we don't get that satisfaction. It's just so it's like Captain Myers of the Navy. Oh, okay, cool. And it's like, come here for debrief. That's it. That's all we get of that. Like that interesting plot, because it actually got my intrigue at the beginning of the film. Like, this plane's in pristine condition. This plane was reported lost in 1945. It's been missing for 75 years or whatever. I was like, whoa, that's cool. And then just nothing happened to it.
No, I completely forgot about that intro scene, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, the Mexican dude who has really bad sunburn, you know, that's how they set you up for people that are in contact with these aliens get sunburn, you know, from the beams of light. All these like little subtle details are just, I don't know, just some of them felt a little short, like fell a bit short for me. Bit of a bummer, but overall I was entertained. Did it have to go on for 2 hours and 20 minutes? Maybe not.
Absolutely not. No, it's way too long. Way too long.
Yeah. It suffers from a similar problem film I enjoyed called The King, where it just sort of happens and ends. It just didn't go anywhere, but I was still entertained.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll watch it again.
No. Yeah. I think I have that same problem.
Just didn't go anywhere.
There are a couple big things I really love about the film, and that's what makes me enjoy it as much as I do. First off, when you actually see like the UFOs and the aliens, apart from the little kids wearing the grey masks at the end, the effect work is really incredible. Like, so much of it holds up incredibly well. And like the designs and stuff of the UFOs, that's pretty much, when I think of like UFOs, that's just what I think of. And I don't know whether that's just because it's like a cliched thing, or whether that's because that's kind of the design that this film made so famous. But I think all
they
the
do
effect
genuinely
work and
look
stuff is
like
great.
stunning. Yeah, they are stunning visuals.
Yeah.
I have to disagree with some of it. I thought the spindly alien looked cool. Obviously, I can't rag on it too much at the end of the day. It's 1977. You know? But some like I've seen better like matte painting work in earlier
Yeah.
films. Like there's some times where it was a really obvious map.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit where she's I forgot her name. Is it Gillian?
Don't know.
Gillian, you know the one
I
with
have no clue.
Barry's mother.
Yeah.
She's like looking on over as he's gone down into the little landing base. She's watching from afar, and the lighting is just completely different. And I swear, like whoever did the matte painting for the rock she stood on drew like a black outline on it. It was really jarring. That took me out for a good bit. I was like, oh, okay. But
Yeah.
nah, I liked the UFOs a lot. They held up. They really did.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Fucking the lighting's so cool on them. All right. You do get that slight vibe
Yeah.
because obviously they've been like rotoed in or something like that. You get this sort of like where people are just like looking around like, whoa, amazed, but they're like looking at nothing sort of
Yeah.
vibe, which is, you can't really
Yeah,
help.
definitely.
There's a few things that's that, but that's just obviously we've progressed by like 50 fucking years. So I can't rag on it too much.
I don't know. Like Alien came out 2 years later. And
Oh,
that
yeah,
looks
shit.
stunning.
Alien looks stunning to this day.
But pretty much all those effects were done on set, so
Practical.
like
yeah.
pretty much everything they're looking at was actually there instead
Yeah.
of spliced in after.
Yeah, it's true.
There's also like this thing with like
Um,
government conspiracy going on throughout the movie where like the government's trying to see the aliens. They don't want anyone else to see the aliens. So they've like, with all these people who are like compelled to go there because like the aliens have beamed their minds or whatever.
Yeah.
They're told to go home. It's like, no, you can't be here because the air is killing everything.
There's a gas leak.
Oh, that hit a bit too
Yeah.
close to home.
Oh, what the
Yeah.
the kilos upon kilos of wool being pulled over eyes. The amount of
Yeah.
the irony of it being a gas leak, since they're all being gaslit to fuck. But yeah, that hit pretty close to home. I'll admit. Not that this has become the Sunday morning conspiracy podcast now. Yeah, we actually have a segment on Infowars.com. You want to check us out? It's a 7 p.m. Monday, just after Alex Jones' section. But
But then, like,
Yeah.
Roy gets captured, and then they try to get free. They get free with, like, 2 other people, and they just shout out, "Go for the mountain!" I'm like, Jesus, man. Like, really? Why'd you shout that? They're, like, right there. They can hear you. I mean, I know they knew that they were going to the mountain anyway, but why shout it out?
I mean, if they didn't shout out, it would have slowed them down a little bit because you never know. Because the thing is, the army guy, the guy actually in charge of the soldiers, actually is like, no, it's just a coincidence that they've come here. You know, that ain't science. Which actually makes slight sense because obviously causation doesn't equal correlation doesn't always equate to causation. He's like, it's just a coincidence that they're here. You know, don't hit me with that pansy mumbo jumbo bullshit. So he would have probably just sent the soldiers elsewhere to look for him if they didn't actually see where they went. But you're right, they do shout to the place, to the mountain, and they just go. The only person who would have expected is bloody I don't know what the name is, like that particular government branch that investigates UFOs all over the world. 1 minute they're in India, then they're in Mexico. That team,
God.
you know.
I don't know.
Because they figure out the alien chant from a bunch of Indians
Yeah.
praying,
Yeah.
doing like singing that little song.
They
Yeah,
do it with the power of music. That's how they get to the aliens.
Yeah.
music, the
They would sing a
universal
song.
language. Although here's something that did make me laugh. This is just music nerd shit. If aliens are to communicate, why is it in like 440 hertz, just like standard tuning? I'm like, why is it not like? I would be less surprised if it was like microtonal stuff, like more like, you know, like a Middle Eastern microtonal, where there's like, I don't know, I'm gonna butcher this. No one quote me on this, but like more than 12 notes, like fucking like
Yeah.
30 or something ridiculous, hundreds. I don't know. It's too many microtonal. But no,
Speaking of the music, I do really love that 5-note melody. It's super memorable and quite understandably iconic. And I think a lot of John Williams' music in the film is pretty decent, but some of it is just like a standard adventure score. Like even by John Williams standards, I don't think a lot of them is that great. But that 5-note melody is great. And I love the fact that guy who's playing it at the end has actually got like a huge like real life synth setup that he's
synth.
playing it on.
That did
it's all,
actually
like,
make me laugh.
70s vintage synths.
And then there's a guy like just spouting like music jumbo at him. That just made me laugh so much.
Put the gain up now.
Yeah, pretty nifty little tune. It's memorable. Though. It's cool. But you are right about the rest of the score being just like diet Indiana Jones music.
Like it's pretty much just John Williams kind of phoning it in, which is a shame because I love a lot of his music.
All right.
I
Got any
don't
more
like
points?
how I don't like how the mum tries to discourage her kids from believing in UFOs. Like Roy comes home and he's like, I've seen the UFOs, babe. And she's like, don't say that in front of the kids. They should not be believing in such nonsense. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? You're saying that aliens don't exist.
I'll actually have to slightly disagree there, Max. Dun, dun, dun. They set up earlier in the film that there's definitely a stigma behind conspiracy theorists in the 70s and UFOs back then, because there's a bit where two pilots, something pops up on the radar that's unidentified and it flies past them. They're like, the guy in the flight tower asks them, like, do you want to report that as an unidentified flying object? Yeah. And they're both like hesitant to. Both the pilots don't do it. It just goes unreported because they'd rather not seem like nuts, potentially lose their job. They're worried about losing their job, so they talk about UFOs. Someone else talks about UFOs and loses his job, that guy being Roy. So it's a bit of a stigma then, which is kind of why, like, oh no, don't fucking talk about it. You know, which is a general consensus with conspiracy theories anyway, isn't it? Because believe it or not, some conspiracy theories come out as true. You know?
Yeah.
So, but this is just that sort of like stigma of just, fucking, if it ain't been fed to you from your media, it ain't true.
Yeah. I did forget about that, to be honest. But
you fool.
Definitely.
Call yourself a film watcher? Name every film.
I can't. I'm sorry.
Alright.
Right.
You got anything else to add? I've got like a piece of trivia, but if no one else has any,
hit me with the trivia. Close out on a factoid.
So there's 3 cuts of the film. The version that's on Netflix is just a standard theatrical cut.
Oh, that's the one I watched.
In 1980, Steven Spielberg, that's the one I think we all watched. In 1980, Steven Spielberg made like a special edition where he was given $1 million to recut the film as well as shoot new scenes that he was basically forced to cut previously due to budget constraints. But the studio basically said, we're only going to give you this money if you add a scene at the end where you see the inside of the spaceship.
Ooh, that sounds rough.
And yeah, it's a very controversial scene. I don't think there's really anyone that likes it.
Is it a bit like the original Blade Runner cut? Where
kind of like
Harrison Ford
with the narration.
Did you hear Harrison Ford tried so hard to like not have it in there that he ended up just doing the take as badly as possible, which is why he's there like, I was on the roof. He's like mumbling and shit. But the thing is, that's just what Harrison Ford's like these days. I just love it.
Yeah. Kind of.
You never see him in like interviews, but you see interviews about what he was like on productions, and he was just there like he's kind of just turns up and he's like, I don't want to do your stupid fucking movie. Where's my money? And he like refuses to get like haircuts for films and shit. So like you see him in Anything Modern, he's got like shaggy floppy hair most of the time. Like I ain't cutting my hair for your fucking movie.
Yeah, it was only in the new Star Wars movies because they offered him like millions and millions of dollars
to just briefly be in it and have like 3 lines of dialogue. Love it.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Cutting my hair for your fucking movie. It just gets me, that thought of just Harrison Ford doing it. Oh, bless. All right.
So my choice of movie this week was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Now, as we all know, last week I literally just picked a movie that was off the AMC or AMZ 100 Greatest American Movies. This was on there and it was on Netflix, so I didn't have to buy it, which is why I chose it. 2 hours and 41 minutes. Fuck me, they could have shortened this runtime down so much. So much this movie didn't make sense. It really didn't. The guy's acting, the main guy, was good. He was so weird in it, though. I think he was meant to portray that. But the storyline was so botched. Like, some things just genuinely didn't make sense. Like, it went from one thing to another. I mean, 1 minute he's being denied going into this like restricted site, and then he's meeting up with another girl in there on a mountain. Then it's nighttime and the UFO's there and the little aliens come out. Good movie. Could have been shorter.
Ratings?
Onto the ratings, yeah.
All right.
I still like this movie a lot. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Just a little bit. Cut me off.
Yeah,
My bit of foreskin. That's what it is.
Yeah, I do still like this movie a lot. It's definitely not aged quite as well as some of Spielberg's films from around this time. It came out the same week as the original Star Wars movie, and that has definitely aged so much better than this has.
Yes.
But in terms of sci-fi cinema, although I don't think it's quite as interesting and entertaining today as it must have been when it came out, there's still like no denying that it's very clearly influential and important to the genre. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Very nice. Yeah, it didn't really gel with me, honestly. I appreciate the effects. I appreciate the design of like the UFOs. I really thought all the creative visual stuff was very interesting to me. I just didn't really gel with anything else, really. But you know, it's not like nothing's terrible about this movie, but nothing really amazes me. Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it again. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 10. Give me more aliens. I want to see the aliens.
Blimey. That's a quite below the belt score there. Blimey. Probably give it 6.4. You know,
Nice.
if I was to watch it back in the day as a teenager, probably like high 8, because it must have been a spectacle and a half for its time. Definitely for its time. It's unfortunately aged like milk, but it is what it is. I've said it is what it is about 20 times. Show.
Sometimes it is what it is.
And Connor gave it a 5.
Damn.
5.
His own choice.
How about that?
Yeah, he'd never watched it
fair
before.
enough. In all fairness, I didn't watch my recommendation before suggesting. I just read a little blurb. I thought, fuck it,
Yeah.
I'll go in, because none of you guys had watched it either previously, had you?
No.
Ah, fair enough. Well, I think it's a good way.
Speaking of which, let's jump into it.
Oh yeah. So I thought for this one, I'd go for a film none of us had seen. So after a bit of prying, and a film that I wanted to see personally, and after asking if anyone had seen it, they said no, I thought, fuck it, let's go for it. Seems interesting. I'd only seen a snippet of it. I went for Possum, which I didn't get the notes up for before we started. Sorry. How
all right.
amateurish. Ooh, we open my Evernote page. Possum from 2018 by Matthew Holness. He wrote and directed it. It's a bit of a creepy film about a man suffering from childhood trauma that seems to follow him around, and is so intense it even takes a physical manifestation. Or does it? What really happens? You won't know unless you watch it or listen to us talk about it. All right. Positives and negatives. Should we start with the negatives again?
Sure.
Sure. Oh, I'll start, Sam. Couple of filler shots, I will admit. Generally think some of the shots were a bit filler. You know, like you see the same shot again, randomly spliced in towards the end, like towards the latter half of the film. It's like, why was that put in there? It's sort of like there were some ideas that I thought were cool story-wise that weren't explored. I like some ambiguity, but I don't know. I guess I'm a sucker for just actually getting answers to questions, but
Yeah.
I was left with a lot more questions than answers with this film. But overall, I was entertained. I actually don't have many negatives for this film, though, I will admit.
No, me neither. But I have one big negative which kind of brought down the film for me.
Okay.
And that was literally just that I felt a lot of the first half kind of felt just like filler. Like there's just shots of characters walking that go on for what feels like forever. And although the film is just generally a slow movie, and I don't have a problem with that, I definitely think later on gets incredibly tense and atmospheric, and I think the slowness is very creepy. But I feel like in the first half, it just kind of feels like nothing important's actually happening. It doesn't really add anything. And it, for me, just felt like it was there to pad out the runtime, and that kind of brought the whole experience down for me a little bit.
It could have definitely got away with being a short film.
Perhaps. It's already so short, though, you know.
Yeah, I think it easily could have been about like maybe an hour long, maybe an hour 10 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There is a lot that just doesn't really work about it. I do enjoy the movie, though. That's the thing. I enjoy the creepy vibe to it. I enjoy the ambiguity of it. It's sort of not really done as well in the latter half of the, well, like at the end scene. But yeah, I found like the puppet thing quite, like, it was supposed to be creepy, but it kind of wasn't. It was just like, it felt like it was just a prop. But I was interested in this guy's story. What was his name? Philip. I was interested in what he was about, because he's an actor I've seen in a couple of things before, but this is just a very insular movie where he's basically the only character in it, bar like one or two people. So I think he does he carries the weight of the movie, and I do think he does that well. I think it is dragged down by like some of the ambiguity being lost, or like at the end it just flat out says like, and that was that.
Yeah.
And like, this is why he feels this way, and this is what he's been dealing with the whole time. And this, like, I don't really appreciate that. I generally like when films leave things a bit more to the imagination, or it depends really what they're going for. But this, I still enjoyed it, but it was just like a lot of shots of him just standing in places, trying to get rid of this puppet, and I don't really understand what the puppet means to him, but he's just like trying to throw it in places, beating it up. It's a little bit funny in that sense, where he's just like trying to kill the puppet, but
it's definitely,
I do enjoy the presence of it, but it just doesn't work for me as much.
Oh yeah, it's definitely it's subtle till it's not. I feel like it is. It's sort of like, oh, what's this? What's this? Oh, what's this? And then it's like, no, it's this.
Yeah.
At the end of it, but there's still some ambiguity I wish was explored more, and some ambiguity that I was glad wasn't explored. A bit I wanted to know, as you said, is solely about Sean Harris's character, Philip, mostly. Why has he come back home? I want to know why. That isn't explored too well. It's because he's obviously lost his job. A lot of descriptions say he's a disgraced puppeteer, forced to confront his wicked stepfather, secrets that have tortured his whole entire life. The thing is, though, it's like, why is he a disgraced child's puppeteer? The thing is, people were commenting on how, well, Maurice, I thought it was his uncle. I think it's his uncle. Does he say uncle was like a pet name? This is his stepdad.
I thought it was just this guy who was in this house. I didn't really. And then it was like, your old Uncle Maurice. I was like, this guy is his uncle? What?
Yeah, but what's it? Because the thing is, supposedly that guy comes from an academic background in the film. You know, he's talking. What's it? It's like, oh, I received letters from blah 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 of the arts. So you were a fine puppeteer until you pulled that stunt. I was like, what was the stunt? What did he pull that made him a disgraced puppeteer? Was it showing kids this creepy puppet, the spider thing?
Yeah.
What does he do with the puppet?
Maybe, because that puppet was kind of terrifying.
It actually was. I think this would be a good moment to actually talk about the puppet. I've actually got a lot of notes about the puppet itself.
Sure.
To talk about the puppet, one thing I have to talk about is we're going to have to skip to the end, unfortunately, of this film to get some
Right.
understanding on the puppet. If you don't want spoilers for this film, don't listen. Go watch the film. Email one of us. We'll send you a magnet for you to torrent it. Not really. Buy it. Wink. What's it called? Maurice, his uncle / stepfather, molested the main character, Philip.
Yeah.
The puppet itself looks like Philip. I don't know if you noticed that. In the face, there's several shots where he's holding the puppet up to himself, and it's the jaw and the nose in particular, side profile, look identical to the actor Sean Harris. And it's like,
Wow.
okay, that's weird. You know, it gives that sort of uncanny valley vibe. The spider touches him all the time, and he keeps waking up in his bed. The spider's always got his legs on him when it has a chance. When it is animated in any scene, it's like the spider's molesting. I don't know if that's a whole tie, because it's like the spider he can't get rid of is this whole sort of like manifestation of his childhood trauma into an actual physical entity that he can't get rid of. And there's a scene where he throws it into like a stream, walks away, and then he just collapses in the mud and he's writhing around in anguish. And it kind of reminded me of, you ever had a big fucking spider on like your bed or something? You're like, let me grab a tissue. You leave the room to come back with tissue, and the spider's gone. And that feeling of the spider not being in your vision anymore is more unsettling than the spider itself being there. I feel like that's what happens when he like falls over and he's writhing around, and then he's like struggling to find the puppet, and then he finds it at like on the bridge outside the bag. He's obviously not well. As I said earlier in this podcast, it's like we've accidentally themed this and picked films with very broken blokes in it. But yeah, the puppet is disgusting. It is actually terrifying and creepy. The face, the face for me.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, you're just seeing like these legs, these big spidery legs that are sort of made out of like this weird, like dirty felt, and that in itself is just kind of creepy. But then it shows the face, and the face acts as the entire body. But like a lot of the time, he's just got it like hanging up in his room. That I just found
like
really interesting. Yeah, like a coat, and like he sees it, you can see it through like the mirror.
Yeah.
Sometimes it won't show it directly; it'll just be like a mirror shot. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, the design of its face, especially like how empty and like cold it looks, and like how grimy the body is as well. It reminds me of something from like a Tool music video, like the like stop motion ones.
Yeah, I get that. I could get behind that vibe. Definitely. I must admit, I completely went off on a tangent and forgot what I was actually saying about that terror of not being able to see a spider. It's like he'd rather exist with his childhood trauma because it's what he knows than going without it, which is why he's even more terrified. You know, like when people stay in abusive relationships, all right, and then people question all the time, well, why do you leave? It's because when you're in a vulnerable position like that, change can be hard, which is obviously what it feels like Philip suffers from in this.
Yeah, there's obviously like this thing of like the house is all grimy and dirty, but it's like fire damaged from when his parents died in a fire. There's like a room he doesn't go into, because that's where they died. It just sort of really, I really like the look of the movie as well. It's just like
it's
gets
beautifully
into, like,
shot,
these,
definitely. But how disgusting everything looks. Is that what most of Norfolk looks like? I just want to know. If you live in Norfolk, please tell us.
You tell us, Norfolks.
The North.
We want to know.
You know, everywhere is a shithole.
But then, like with that scene where he falls in the mud, in like this sort of meadow place next to the stream, like the sun setting, it's got like this like orange tinge to the grass. It looks really, really nice.
Yeah, everything just has like this really grimy and like disgusting look and feel, but also like the way it's shot, it's like a very grainy and gritty looking movie. Like
definitely,
it looks like it must have been shot on film, but it looks like the film stock they used was like really like burnt up and dirty,
stinky.
and it really fits. Yeah, it really fits the tone that they're going for.
I thought it felt very British. I was like, this
Yeah.
just looks and
Yeah,
feels
definitely.
really
definitely
British
catches that.
in tone and in
That-
look.
Just that grey stink,
Mm.
of England,
we
especially
never get
in
the
mid-
sun.
especially
Yeah.
when you go up north, especially as you creep along up to the Midlands, just how grey and dirty everything is, and just abandoned from the 70s, which, funnily enough, abandoned from the 70s or abandoned from the 80s is a good way to potentially describe the main character, Philip. Abandoned from the 70s, He's obviously
Yeah.
broken
Yeah.
and suffers from really bad childhood trauma. I think they actually hint at it really well. Like at the beginning, the way he just interacts with a child on the train, like, "Oh, what you drawing?" Where he's like asking about the kids, like doodles and
Mm.
stuff. And then the way when he comes home and when he finally notices that Maurice is in the house, you notice every time he comes home, he shouts his name. Even though he doesn't like the guy at all, he still shouts the guy's name as if he's like come home to address that he's home. As if, like a kid come home and go, "Mom, Dad."
That's sort of like a
yeah.
reflection of how he treats the puppet as well, though. I guess
Yeah.
if he always needs it to be around or he needs to know where it is.
Yeah. Definitely. Another subtle hint they did it is childlike tendencies that sort of get a bit stronger in the film. I don't know if you know, this is a really subtle one I made a note of. He comes down the stairs and watch someone who's like, I don't know, 6 to 12 run down a flight of stairs. They get to the last like couple of steps and they jump off. We all did it as a kid a few times, yeah.
Mhm.
He does that a couple of times in the film, down staircases.
Mm.
It's just like a little subtle bit of childlike behaviour he does, which I thought was quite a subtle nod, which is quite well done, I will admit. So they slip these little details in, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
Definitely subtle to us not this film. Like, oh, did this happen? Did this
Yeah.
happen? And then at the end, it's like, yeah, it happened. Although I do have a thought about the ending. If we go back to that, do you think Sean Harris's character Philip was actually a paedophile or not?
No,
I
No,
don't know.
I don't think he was.
I'm a little bit on the fence because they do hint at it. He's hanging about the school.
Yeah.
He's sat in the park. He's hanging about his
Yeah.
old childhood spots he used to hang out and stuff. And that teacher tells him to move on. And then there's a bit where he's distressed. So where does he go for help? The school, for some reason.
Yeah.
And he's waiting there. And it isn't until he puts his ear up to the door and you can hear him say, "Look, I'll keep him here. You call the police," when the teacher's in there, that he decides to run. So
Yeah.
I don't know. They hint at it, but I don't know. Here's another thing: Maurice, his stepdad / uncle, is he real, or is it another manifestation of his trauma
Yeah.
that's brought on because he's back to this old childhood home of his where all this terrible stuff happened to him?
It's hard to say
Yeah.
Yeah,
because he's the only person
They're-
who interacts with him.
yeah,
Mm. Their relationship actually reminds me a lot of the two guys from The Lighthouse. Like how
Oh, no spoilers. That's it.
there's like a possibility that one of them's not real, or that one of
Okay.
them's completely lost it and the other guy's like mentally torturing him and like making him.
Yeah,
There's like that possibility where one of the characters may have gone insane, or he may just be being mentally tortured
Yeah.
to think that he's going insane. I think that was quite interesting. It's really well done in this film. I just generally like the relationship between Philip and Maurice. There's like a very clear tension between the two. And I think both actors do a really
Yeah.
great job of portraying that. And there's a lot of moments that are
Yeah.
very creepy just watching them two interacting and talking to each
Yeah.
other.
I kind of feel like Maurice is real because there's this part where he talks about like years and years ago where like there was a similar like kidnapping of a child, and he was like stuffed him in a bag, wore a mask, didn't he? And Philip is quite disturbed by it, so I feel like probably he was real, because if it was back in the day, maybe when Philip was like in school, then he's a kid, he's not going to kidnap
Yeah.
people.
Well, a few things that did actually air more to the side that Maurice is real is a line where towards the end Maurice goes, "Oh, I've got to go away for a bit. None of your business." Now, if it was a manifestation, why would they say that? If that makes sense. I know it
Yeah.
sounds dumb. Why would
Yeah.
part of his brain go, oh, I'm a bit of mental health unfortunately, I've got to go for a bit though.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The thing is, Maurice really has nowhere to go. He's old, he's retired, you know, he's fucking a bit of a degenerate, yeah? I have a
Yeah.
feeling that every time Philip comes home and calls for Maurice isn't in. Maurice is actually in that room, spoiler alert again, diddling that kid or something.
Mm,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Perhaps,
These are spoiler discussions. It's fine.
But yeah, so I think so because the reason being, obviously, where's the best place to hide? Obviously, the place where Philip ain't going to go. His bedroom, his parents' bedroom, where they perished and their remains are still weirdly there in jars. But obviously, I guess that's where Maurice likes to hide, do his shenanigans.
They got like teeth in this little jar.
Yeah,
Like charred teeth. Horrible looking place.
yeah.
Really good set design though.
It is.
All the subtlety goes out the window slightly, where you're thinking, oh, what is the relationship between these two? And you know instantly that Maurice touched and diddled Philip's character when he pins him to the ground, and Philip just surrenders and yields to him because he's in that like childlike state. He surrenders to his abuser, and he gets molested by Maurice again as an adult.
Oh,
And
that was
Maurice
horrible.
is putting his fingers in there. He's like, you want my fingers in your mouth? And he's like shaking his head and eventually goes, opens his mouth.
Yeah.
Must have been so awkward. I think I heard about this film, Maurice and, so Alan Armstrong, who plays Maurice, and Sean Harris, didn't hang out at all. Like, between shooting or anything like that. They only, like, hung out on set or something like that. I might be misquoting this, it might be for a completely other different film. But they purposely didn't hang out. So when they did, it was distanced and tense, you know. So which paid off because the acting is superb. For the few actors that are in it, it is really fucking well done. And the way Sean Harris can like almost completely change his face for this role, like the way he contorts himself to really show how distressed, terrified, and upset he is at times, is pretty spectacular. Really fucking pretty disturbing.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I do. Yeah, I really get a lot out of his like facial expressions and the way he just like uses his body, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the way he uses his body, the way he comes across is like awkward. Like he's having to think about every single action he does. Nothing's autonomous. If you know what I mean. Like everything is so like spindly and janky. You know, like. And it adds to that sort of like creepy, weird. Oh, is he a pedo or not? Vibe that is displayed a lot in the film.
Yeah. I got a lot about like, is the puppet real? I know like Maurice talks about the puppet, but I feel like, and we've already established we probably think the Maurice is real, but I think that maybe the puppet does exist, but perhaps it doesn't look like what we're being shown it looks like.
Oh, that's a good take. I've never even thought about that. I thought more that the puppet is real, and it's like almost like a metaphor or like a symbol for his abuse and childhood trauma. And when he goes to get rid of it, that's him just thinking about getting rid of it. That's why it keeps coming back, because he never actually goes through with getting rid of it. Because otherwise, how would you explain it fucking coming out of that fucking industrial water vat in the old army barrack and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah. It was sort of because he's got this like book where he wrote like a poem about a possum when he was younger.
Yeah.
Like mother, father, what's afoot? Only possum, black as soot. And I'm like, when you look at the poster, because that's just what I did before I watched the movie. I'm like, the poster's like this grey, like black and white thing. There's like a bag on the bed with the sort of puppet spidery legs coming out of it. I was like, is that going to be the possum? And then you see the puppet. I'm like, that don't look like no possum I ever seen.
Speaking of the bag, you know, it's coming out of the bag. You know, it's obviously saying about that kid that's previously abducted was put in a bag. You know, they found his body in a bag or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the puppet's in a bag. And then at the end, Maurice uses the bag to put on Philip's head. Guessing that's obviously just saying, hey, this was Maurice back in the day. Right?
Yeah.
I've got a feeling, right? Because there's a bit where Maurice goes, oh, I didn't know. I swear I didn't. Guessing Maurice put Philip as a kid in a bag at one point, locked him in it. Because it was the bit where they're talking about the previous kid had kidnapped him and found in a bag, which was ever more terrifying to Philip as someone he knew at school, for him to then be in a bag at one time. So that's when Maurice is like, oh, I didn't know, I swear. You know? So maybe that's why the possum, so the puppet itself, keeps being put in the bag.
Maybe.
No.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that's like with the legs coming out, spilling over the bag as the head's inside it. It's sort of emulated in this tree he keeps going back to with like it's like sort of it looks the same. He puts it in the middle of the tree and then just sort of tries to walk away, but he can't.
Yeah. Well, obviously that's like a spot from his childhood, that tree. Hence why he keeps coming back to it. Maybe that's what helped develop that puppet, if that made sense. You know, the spindling branches of that tree looking like a spider spilling out of the bag is what eventually inspired him to make said spider puppet. And obviously his children illustrations, the illustrations he made as a child of like a creepy puppet thing. No, sorry, not puppet thing, spider thing with a boy's face and stuff. And the thing is, the boy in the drawing at the beginning of his book, is that meant to be him? It's like a diary, per se, like a poetic diary. Then the spider later on has a boy's face in the pictures. Then him later on as an adult, the puppet has a face that eerily looks the same as him. It's like becoming a real fucking. It's like that same poem he wrote as a kid, but just in a different medium, being a physical 3D one. I don't know. There's a lot of callbacks to stuff in it. I love it.
There is. I feel like the possum can be sort of interpreted in a lot of different ways. Maybe it's not just one thing. Maybe like Phillips the possum, I sort of got like, you know, with like a possum, they play dead to predators. And I sort of got that in the way that he carried himself, and he was sort of very in his own sort of shell. He's sort of like very shy and inward. So.
Yeah. Well, I think it's calling back to obviously another bit of his childhood trauma was when a few boys like found a fox and they beat the shit out of it. And like,
I love that story. Oh, I love that story so much.
Tell me about the fox again. Like Maurice is like laughing with his fucking rotten little like tusks hanging out. But telling that story, I'm guessing that's where the idea of possum to the Philip as a child comes, because the fox played dead, so everyone stopped being interested in it, and then it ran off.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's where the possum idea comes from. So that traumatizing event led to him creating this creepy old little poem. You know, the black balloons, symbolism. What do you think they mean?
Freedom.
Really? I interpreted it as, you know, as wallpaper.
Don't know.
Let's say the child holding a balloon is plastered all over his wall. It's a wallpaper pattern. And there's that imagery of balloons, black billowing smoke as a transition. Obviously, symbolizing the house fire. It's that, okay, these balloons, obviously childlike, house is filling with black smoke. That's the end of his childhood. The fire, parents dying, life fucked to that point for him. And then the black balloons, there weren't ever any black balloons, was it? He just remembers black smoke and balloons. Not gonna lie, a really shit take I had on the balloons with the smoke is, he's coming back home. Is someone cooking him, like baking him a welcome home cake, and they accidentally burn it? That was a really shit take I had when I first watched it and saw that bit. But
I like how like the fox story is sort of called back to as Philip's walking around these places. He sees like a fox dead in the grass, and then he walks away. He looks back, and the fox is just standing there.
Yeah. Well, he sees an alive fox at the beginning in the garden, doesn't he? And it like stuns him for a moment. Because it's like, oh shit, a fox. Because he hasn't seen a fox in a bloody long time. Wherever the fuck he moved to. Spoiler alert, if you're not in England, they're fucking everywhere.
God, yeah.
Alright. I think a good point to talk about. What did you guys think about the sound design and score.
The sound design is really great and atmospheric, super creepy. The music, I felt like some of it was really great and some of it just kind of felt like a almost generic horror soundtrack. The bits I liked the most were like the creative, like almost like electronic stuff. Like there was a few bits where there was like electronic bits going on where it literally sounded like they took samples and slowed it down massively. And I thought that was really interesting and quite creepy. But yeah, some of it I did just feel was a little bit generic.
Yeah, I'm in two minds about the music, really. At times it can be a little much, either like too low end in the noise or like too much of like high end. But like some of it I did enjoy too. Some of it was sort of utilized to like do like jump scares as well that I didn't really care too much for.
Yeah, that felt a little cheap sometimes. Like, the only
sometimes
jump scare,
it could be like really creepy though.
Yeah.
So I did like that, like setting this sort of really
Very
unique
atmospheric.
atmosphere.
Very atmospheric, definitely. Unconventional instruments, I like that as well. I swear I heard a water phone, which is, I don't know if you've ever seen one of them. It's a big dish of water with tubes hanging off it. And you fucking drag a bow across that, and it's that cliche horror sound that I will not be able to replicate with my mouth. But I'll send you a clip afterwards and you go, wow, I recognise that. We'll edit that in. So, Max, just say, wow, I know what a water phone is. Exactly what it sounds like.
Wow, I know what a water phone is, exactly what it sounds like.
Cool. We'll fix that in post. Yeah, I love the sound design.
You mean I'll fix it in post because I'm the one editing?
No, Chris, I'll edit this one for a laugh. Can't be that hard. No. I've got Movie Maker on here somewhere. No. I'll do it in that. But no, I love the sound design. All of it sounded weighty and intense. There was only like one bit where the sound design let me down personally, but I loved all of the music. It was disgusting, which grated on me in a good way. But the end, the sound design felt a bit weak. Like that was the only jump scare that actually got me, and I felt like it was worth it. Was Uncle Maurice. But like, I don't know how did Maurice actually die? Did he like get his neck snapped, or have his head stabbed on the sharp burnt wood?
That was kind of awkward.
That's
kind of awkward.
I would have quite liked if, I know it sounds bad, if Philip just strangled Maurice. It would have made more sense. Strangled him or beat him like he tries to beat the puppet. Or even like smash him on the head with something like a brick nearby or a rock or something. But yeah, I think we should talk about the end for a bit though. What did you think of that? Were you expecting that ending? And if you weren't, did it disappoint you or satisfy you?
I kind of didn't know what I was expecting, honestly. It was just like one of those films where I'm just sort of like, anything could happen right now and it'll be something.
Yeah.
I just it's the kind of thing that doesn't really feel like it has a build-up. So you can't really predict what's going to happen. I don't hate it, but I do think it's a bit too in your face.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate, like, the acting was good, and like at the end, like the kid comes out of the box and he's just like, "Run away, kid!" He scampers off. I'm like, okay. So I didn't love it, but I appreciated elements of it.
Yeah. Oh, there was definitely some strong bits that I hate to say it. Sounds weird to say as a sentence out loud. Philip being molested was very strong. Part of that scene. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah,
it cemented a lot of theories and was just very uncomfortable to watch. But yeah, Chris, what's your take on the end? What you liked, what you didn't like?
Yeah, I think I was very satisfied with the ending. Like Max said, I didn't really know what to expect from the ending, and I thought the whole final act was incredibly tense and at times quite terrifying.
Yeah, like generally that jump scare of Maurice coming out the shadow with the balaclava on. Actually, I was like, holy shit, that actually like scared me. Because the thing is, he's finally going into the room for the first time. Uncle Maurice going to molest you. Whoa, shit! It just comes out of nowhere. There's no like build up to the end per se. It's just like, pow, ending's here. It's happening. As Max said, with the little boy scurrying off, that did sort of take me. It's a bit jarring. I was just like, well, that's all that's going to happen. Like, just saw the guy that's kidnapped him dead on the floor. Another guy's there. It's like, what the fuck is going on? But then again, you could also be like, he's just been in a box for a while. He's potentially being diddled every fucking night. I'd probably scamper off too, not gonna lie. So, I don't know. How do you think Maurice, so not to comment on the skill of Maurice's pedophilic tendencies, but how do you think he lured them in? Was it with the weird green bonbons? What's the symbolism of them?
Probably.
Are they full of drugs?
It could be.
Because
Like a child catcher type of thing.
yeah, because you know, every time Philip went to eat one, he would wake up. You know, like the first time he eats one, he like wakes up and he looks a little bit confused because he just before he says it, he's like, "What's actually in those?" He actually says to Maurice at one point, which is probably a bit obvious of a way of saying that there's potentially drugs in them, and then it almost becomes like a coping mechanism. The points when he's distressed, you see him start eating every now and again. You know, so I don't know if he then just starts taking them because he's had enough. What's going on? Fuck knows.
I think strong
Yeah,
point.
possibly.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a bit. Well, it was a bit of symbolism. The film stinks of symbolism. I'm going on. You know,
Yeah.
the big symbolism scented candle is on your desk. You know?
It is.
So-
And that's like, yeah, exactly. That's sort of like what I got out of it as well. I was like, this is a metaphor.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't really know what it's a metaphor for, but
I'll have to
it's
ask,
something.
though, would you guys watch it again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to say by myself, probably not. I think I got enough from it myself.
Mhm.
I'd want to share it with someone.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not too scared of the fucking spider puppet. That's not what it is.
Yeah. I honestly, I would watch it again. I really got a lot out of it, but it does fall off for me quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I love the vibe of it. I love like how like the setting and like how the music complements the setting, and just the acting is really good, and just I love the vibe, the pure Britishness it exudes.
That's
Yeah,
all
I would love to watch it again.
rundown utilitarian look about everything. I will say, I got nowhere near as ethereal and ambiguous and ominous as Stalker, but similar vibes with some of the rundown places, the people laying in puddles.
Yeah.
But no, only on that element and a little bit of the sound design. But other than that, completely different films, obviously. But I was just comparatively speaking, them elements. But yeah.
Now, Possum, probably one of the weirdest fucking movies I've ever watched. I will say, though, this movie, with how little dialogue it has, is fucking incredible. The guy's acting is superb. The sound for this movie, fuck me, there are just shots where it lingers on him. For example, the shot where he's throwing his bag off the bridge into the river and then he goes to try and find it. And it's just the music that plays in the background. It just builds such suspense and creates such an atmosphere. It was freaky, don't get me wrong. And I like the fact that there wasn't much dialogue and the only two people that really had speaking lines were the two main actors, the old guy and then this young guy, which I recognise the guy from something, but I cannot remember what I've seen him in. But the acting was really good. I kind of suspected that he kidnapped the kid, or at least killed him, in the beginning of the movie. But yeah, it was a fucking weird movie, but I liked it.
Is everyone ready for the rating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say so. Well, I'll go first since I picked that bad boy.
Mhm.
I'm going to go pretty strong with probably a 7.6, which is quite high for me. I must admit, my other films I've talked about here have all sat in the sixes for me. Thing is, I don't know, I'm very stingy with ratings. Like, my all-time favourite film, Terminator 2, isn't even a 10 for me. You know? I say it's near perfect cinema, you know? But yeah, around a 7.5-ish is good. I enjoyed Possum thoroughly. Yourself, boys?
Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoy a lot of it. I do think it's a little bit slow to begin with, but there's a definite feeling of dread that I love, and it's visually great. and just a very creepy, atmospheric movie. I'm probably going to give it a 6, but it's like a very high 6, maybe low 7. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I really love this movie. I think it does what it needs to do again, and maybe it could be a bit too heavy-handed with its symbolism. Maybe it could have been a bit too overt with the messages that it was trying to display, especially in like the third act. But I think the acting carries it. I think the cinematography is fantastic. I love just how it's put together as well. And I do like the ambiguity of it. I just wish that maybe there was more of it, or maybe less of it in some places. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I would definitely watch it again.
Nice. All right. I will say, to wrap this whole thing up, I'm glad it wasn't a complete circle jerk. We weren't all tossing each other off and liking everything.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we all liked Possum. Divided on Chris's pick. Enter the Void. Close against the Third Kind. Not so much. Actually, no, we were quite divided, actually. No, right. No, we were pretty unanimous on that one. And Filth was a bit more divided upon, where Mooney gave it pretty damn high score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He also gave Possum, I think, a 7.5.
Oh, nice. Oh, I'm glad he enjoyed it. It's awesome.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
I will have to, unfortunately, for myself, go back through the effort of listening to this whole conversation again, but with Mooney's tidbits added. I actually look forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, I think we should wrap it up. It's been a fucking long one.
It's been long.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
did you even press
very
record?
much.
Yeah. Are we going to talk about our recommendations quick?
Oh, fuck, yeah. Yeah,
That's the next week.
Oh, sorry, if I just cut you boys off.
No.
No.
It's fine.
Just part of the wrap up.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Connor hasn't got a recommendation as of yet. I told him to just think of something in the next few days and we can just put it on social media. So,
Sure.
yeah, look out on social media for his pick. So starting with me, I'm going to pick the film Waves by Trey Edward Schultz. Really incredible movie. I know you like it a lot as well, Max. I'm looking forward to
I love that
rewatching
movie.
it.
Wonderful. My next pick is one that I know Chris and I have watched before, but I don't think Connor has watched before. It's one of my favourite movies ever. 1982 movie directed by Ridley Scott called Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Nice.
Heard of it, mate. What's it about? Guys running with scissors.
It's safety. It's a safety movie. So yeah, thank you very, very much for listening. We do have our social media accounts. Obviously, Letterboxd is at Sunday MM. Facebook is at Sunday Movie Marathon, and Twitter is at Sunday Movie Pod. Give us a follow. Why not? And you'll see at least what Connor's going to recommend. Thank you very much to our good friend Reed for joining us on this episode 15.
All right, see you, nerds. I'll catch you on the Christmas special. It'll be Boondock Saints. It'll be good. Ciao.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.